Chapter 301, Pure Yang Sword Palace. Yi took out a set of clothes from his interspatial ring. After putting them on, he rapidly moved towards the palace. This sword-like mountain did not look high, but when he tried climbing it, Yi could feel that the mountain seemed to possess some sort of magical power. The distance up the mountain seemed to have lengthened. He climbed for 2 hours before reaching the peak. On the mountain peak, the winds howled. Yi overlooked the land beneath him, but he felt that everything he saw seemed to be shrouded in a hazy mist, making it all look lifeless. And at the entrance of the palace, the large bronze door had been sealed shut. This world was once again isolated. This unknown fragment of a world contained powers far beyond the Taiya divine kingdoms, but the only thing it contained which was still intact was this palace. Everything else had faded away with time. Yi turned around and looked at the palace. The shape of the palace was like a divine sword pierced through the sky. Around the palace, there were 4 thick columns with engravings carved on them. Yi quietly walked to the columns and looked at the engravings. The engravings were all connected together as a whole. Some of the scenes in the engravings startled Yi. He saw a divine dragon locked up in chains. He saw all-powerful human great emperors being suppressed and a peerless expert shattering a world. Amongst this, there was a great war scene where 2 sides were battling out. They were clearly of different races. One side was riding on primordial desolate beasts, while the other side was riding on powerful magical weapons. Could this world fragment's downfall have anything to do with the great war recorded in these engravings? Yi looked at each scene carefully, marveling at the grand scene. It was hard to imagine how wide this world was. He felt that the world he had seen was just a drop in a sea. Even sages in the Taiya divine kingdom, how much of this world have they managed to explore? After passing the huge pillars, Yi came before the palace. He raised his head and saw that, at the top of the palace, there was a golden plaque. There were words on the plaque that seemed to have been erased. There were only a few intermittent strokes left, emitting an aggressive aura. As he approached the palace, Yi started to feel an indescribable sense of oppression. This pressure on his senses was not only on his flesh, but also on his mental facilities. It seemed like this invisible strength was suppressing Yi's energy circulation and all his life-bearing activities. His heart, breaths, blood flow, and even his thoughts had all slowed down. A black stone statue stood about 300 meters in front of the palace's entrance. The statue was about 30 meters tall and was that of a tall and large middle-aged man. His face was covered by a black-red helmet and his eyes looked as deep as the star-filled universe. He had a sword behind his back. Although there was only a statue there, it emitted an ancient wild aura that belonged to that of a peerless expert. The aura spread out in all directions, as well as up into the sky. For some reason, it left Yi especially shaken. Behind the statue, there was a fragmented black stone pillar. The words on the stone pillar looked as if they had been carved out using a sword. They were written in a crisp and powerful manner, as if the energy would seep out from the stone pillar. As he read these words, it was as if an image of a refined person holding a sword had appeared before him. Was this stone pillar carved by the middle-aged man the statue depicted? Yi looked at the words on the stone pillar. The way the words were written was different from how words were written in the present, but Yi had read ancient books like the Taiya Sacred Technique and the 10,000 Beast Totem, so he was able to understand these words. On the stone pillar were the words, establishing the 7 kills stone pillar, announcing my will. Waiting for the future, when the heavens collapse, the non-existence of the universe, me as the world, control over life and death, destroying the cycle of reincarnation, obtaining the souls of everything, casting my sword, spilling my immortal blood, to slaughter all evil demons. Kill. 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 Souls of everything, casting my sword, spilling my immortal blood, to slaughter all evil demons. Kill. 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 There were 7 kill words, each more shocking than the other. 7 kills stone pillar. Yi Yun took a deep breath of air. Just reading these few lines of words made him experience a monstrous murderous intent. It seemed like this person had infinite amounts of hate which pushed him to destroy all of existence. What sort of person was this? To think that he wrote on the stone pillar that he was waiting for the day when the heavens collapsed, leading to the universe ceasing to exist and then become a world himself, taking control over life and death. This formidable intent. Yi Yun was secretly horrified. The person who made this pillar was amazing. Yi Yun looked at the top of the stone pillar. The stone pillar was about 9 meters thick, and its top had been shaved off by a sword, leaving an extremely smooth, flat surface. When Yi Yun walked to the back of the stone pillar, he was even more appalled. The attack that had shaved off the stone pillar continued on down its back. There was a long, black gap that became wider as it went deeper. As he looked down towards this ravine, Yi Yun became even more shocked. This attack had extended to the rear of the sword-like mountain all the way down the mountain's base. It had been split all the way down. A gap had been cleanly cut through the mountain, which was thousands of meters tall, spreading into the land. A canyon had been cut out in the lifeless land by that sword attack. The canyon was unfathomably deep, reaching all the way to the limits of one's vision. Midway, there was a river that had also been cut apart and a path through a forest which had been sliced open. Yi Yun turned silent for a long time after seeing this. It was as if this broken world had been divided in two by this attack. What sort of power was this? Could it be that after the person carved the words on stone pillar, he sent out such a slash due to his hate and loathing, resulting in such a stunning sword scar? Waiting for me as the world, to slaughter all evil demons. Who were the evil demons? Was the person who left behind this sword scar defeated in that huge war? Looking at the sword scar, he could subtly feel that, besides containing a terrifying killing intent within it, there was also an air of tranquility to it. Yi Yun felt pain in his eyes after looking at it for too long. Even his skin could feel prickling pain. His muscles tensed up involuntarily. The longer he looked at it, the more the sword intent within the sword scar became obvious. It made Yi Yun not dare to move away from his spot. His breaths became heavier as if he was facing a huge enemy. It was as if this sword attack was about to pierce through space-time and slash at this head. It was unbelievable that such a sword intent still existed in this sword scar, even after tens of millions of years. Yi Yun conjured up his pure yang qi to ease that feeling. To have such power, after such a long period of time. Back then, this attack's power would likely slash apart the entire divine wilderness. Yi Yun sighed. If this was tens of millions ago, the remnant sword qi was enough to kill him, considering how hard it was for him to endure the sword intent left behind by the sword scar. Yi Yun took a deep breath. This level of existence was far beyond his understanding. He turned around and left the sword scar, walking towards the palace's entrance. The ancient large door did not have any ornaments. As Yi Yun approached the door, he could feel sword qi surging towards him, as if it was about to cut through his body. He held his breath and walked to the door with great difficulty. Before Yi Yun could reach out his hand to push open the door, a brilliant flash sucked Yi Yun in. With that, Yi Yun was already inside the palace. The hall was dimly lit. The ground was covered in black unknown rocks. The first thing that entered Yi Yun's eyes was a sword stuck in the ground. This sword was extremely old. The sword's edge was covered in rust and there were cracks in the sword's blade. It's broken? Yi Yun sighed. It was definitely a peerless sword, but unfortunately, the sword's blade had cracks, making it lose a great deal of its spirituality. After such a long time, it probably was extremely fragile. Yi Yun silently walked over and slowly grabbed the sword's hilt. At this moment, Yi Yun suddenly saw a black shadow standing not far from him. With a startle, he leaped backwards and unsheathed the 1,000 army saber. focusing his eyes, the black shadow remained motionless. It did not have a physical body, but seemed like a burning flame. It was wrapped in a black cloak, only its two red eyes underneath the cloak were bright. They were like jewels in the night. You are. Yi-Yun originally thought that it was some unknown lifeform, such as the evil demons mentioned on the Seven Kills pillar. However, he quickly realized that the black shadow had no intention of killing him. If it really had killing intent, any existence that could stay in this palace would easily annihilate him with just a thought. How long has it been? Someone has actually entered. The black shadow's bleak words seemed to contain an indescribable loneliness. Senior, are you this palace's guardian? Yi-Yun ventured a guess. The black shadow said, I'm a sword spirit. I accompanied my master through countless battles for an unknown period of time. Now, my body has been destroyed, leaving behind a residual soul. I've been sleeping in this pure yang sword palace. By doing so, I have slowed down the time it takes for me to completely dissipate. Now, with you entering, I have awakened. However, such a long period of sleep has made me reach the end of my life. The black shadow's voice was very weak. Yi-Yun had a thought upon hearing this. Senior, have you been sleeping for tens of millions of years? I don't remember. I've been wandering in space for too long before landing in this world. I originally thought that no one would ever pass through that door. Yet, you actually had such a fortuitous opportunity. Wandering in space? Yes, the tens of millions of years was the time since this world crashed into the divine wilderness. Before that, this world fragment had been drifting for an even longer period of time. Yi-Yun had many questions in his mind. The black shadow could see through his thoughts and said, You do not need to ask any more about things of the past. In comparison to this world, you are not bad. You have a low-grade pure yang body. If you can become one of the best in this world, that alone is already not an easy feat, but that is not enough. The things you want to ask will be pointless. You will not be able to enter the deep levels of this sword palace unless you gain insight into the sword intent left behind in the sword palace by my master. When that happens, you might be able to refine the sword palace and obtain the items left behind by my master. However, for you to do that, it will be too difficult, too difficult. Yi-Yun stayed silent. He knew that in the eyes of the black shadow, he was just a very lucky ordinary youth in this wilderness world. His qualifications barely made it. Just him alone could gain insight on the sword intent in the sword palace? The sword spirit clearly did not hold any hope for that. For a person who wanted to learn the way of the sword, he needed extremely high talent. Clearly, Yi-Yun did not have any talent in the way of the sword. Besides, his weapon was a saber. By entering into such a world, the sword spirit probably did not believe his master's heritage would ever be inherited. Chapter 302, Returning to the Divine City. I am returning to my deep slumber. This time I will go into a deeper sleep and I am unsure about when I will wake up again. Since you have entered Pure Yang Sword Palace, it means that you and I are fated. This broken sword is yours. You can leave any time you want. You can also train within Pure Yang Sword Palace. You have a Pure Yang body, so you will be able to cultivate more easily here. After the Black Shadow Sword Spirit said this, its figure slowly turned fuzzy until it completely disappeared. Yi-Yun was left standing alone in the hall. Shie. 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 With a few light sounds, the broken sword, which was originally embedded into the ground, slowly emerged before falling onto the ground. Seeing the rusty broken sword, Yi-Yun felt somewhat speechless. He had risked his life entering the burning hell, broke the board game array to enter this broken world. Yet, he could not enter the internal regions of the palace and only received this broken sword that looked to be in terrible shape. However, Yi-Yun knew that since the Black Shadow Sword Spirit gave him the broken sword, it could definitely not be something ordinary. The question is, what is extraordinary about it? Yi-Yun picked up the broken sword and inspected it. The sword's blade was not sharp in any way and looked extremely weak. The swords of the ancient mighty figures would remain extremely strong, even after weathering tens of millions of years. Although the blade may no longer be sharp, it should still be stronger than the Thousand Army Saber. Yi-Yun looked at the Thousand Army Saber in his hand and sighed. The saber had a company for quite a while, but while battling with the Golden Crow species, it broke. Only 3 feet of the 6-foot-long blade remained. When he returned to the Tai-A Divine City, he would have to change to another saber. This saber could be said to have made considerable contributions. With the broken sword in hand, Yi-Yun felt along the blade with his fingers. He could feel the rough texture of the short blade, making Yi-Yun sense a spiritual change. The Black Sword Spirit thought of me as a saber user, so it thinks I am unable to understand the Sword Palace owner's sword intent. Yet, I will attempt to do so. Even if I cannot gain any understandings, I will slowly understand it thoroughly in the future. With the broken sword in hand, Yi-Yun walked out of the Pure Yang Sword Palace. Now he was closer, in one aspect, to the Sword Palace's owner. They both cultivated the Pure Yang laws. It was also because of this reason that this fragmented world smashed open meteorite abyss, a Pure Yang land. As for the differences between a sword and a saber, Yi-Yun was not too particular about them. Sword and sabers were the world's most common weapons. Back when Yi-Yun first chose the Thousand Army Saber, it was because the Thousand Army Saber looked extremely powerful, not because he had any special connection with the saber. A saber would do, so would a sword. To Yi-Yun, they were equivalent. After Yi-Yun read the truth of the laws, he knew that regardless of saber truths or sword truths, they were all branches of the Tao of weapons. And the Tao of weapons was just one major category amongst the 3,000 great Tao of martial arts. To cultivate to the peak of martial arts, just following one great Tao was too narrow. If he had the ability, the more great Tao he learned, the closer he would approach the heavenly Tao of origins. When he later becomes a great emperor, his strength would become even stronger. Even if I learn sword truths together with my saber truths, there's no harm to that. With his mindset, Yi-Yun walked to the front of the 7 kills pillar left behind by the Sword Palace's owner. As he looked ahead, the large sword scar looked as if it was going to split the world apart. Yi-Yun held the rusty sword diagonally, tracing the sword scar in the air with the broken blade. At the same time, Yi-Yun opened the purple crystal's energy vision. In the energy vision, Yi-Yun was able to directly see the origin of the energy flows within. Back in the Saber Tomb, Yi-Yun had used the energy vision to see the Saber Truth's 32 words origin Saber Truths. Today, Yi-Yun was doing the same thing. The purple crystal was too magical. In Yi-Yun's opinion, although the Black Sword Spirit had extraordinary insight, it clearly could not detect the purple crystal's existence. The level of this kind of divine artifact exceeded Yi-Yun's imagination. In the purple crystal's vision, all appearances disappeared. On the 7 kills pillar, each kill word looked the same with the naked eye, but with the purple crystal's energy vision, they were completely different. The Sword Palace's owner had written his sword intent into the 7 kills pillar when he engraved it. Every kill word embodied a different sword intent, engraved with different great Tao law. Although Yi-Yun was unable to enter the Pure Yang Palace and obtain the heritage of the palace's owner, the 7 kills pillar alone was a treasure. However, the Sword Palace's realm was far beyond Yi-Yun's imagination. The sword intent left behind in the 7 kills pillar was too difficult for Yi-Yun, even with him looking straight at its origins. This was probably a sword intent which reached the highest realms of the sword truths. Yi-Yun stood before the 7 kills pillar and the shocking sword scar for a day and night without moving, pondering over the origins of sword truths. However, his level was too low. He was only able to figure out an extremely small part of it. Only when Yi-Yun's Yuan Qi was depleted did he open his eyes and leave the 7 kills pillar. Standing in front of 7 kills pillar was a test of his perseverance. Yi-Yun had to constantly circulate his pure yang qi to withstand the pressure emitted by the sword intent. At this moment, Yin was exhausted, and what he understood from pondering over the 7 kills pillars sword truth till now was extremely limited. This was a great Tao that reached the extreme realms. It was extremely difficult to climb it. Even so, Yun was not discouraged. He knew that the path of martial arts was fraught with difficulties. Practicing martial arts needed one to endure unimaginable loneliness. Many experts could go into reclusive training for decades at a go. Such long periods of time where a person had to sit alone in a chamber would drive a person crazy from the loneliness. However, the pursuit of martial arts can ease this loneliness. What was supporting Yun was the sword truths in the 7 kills pillar. Yun returned to the Pure Yang Sword Palace. There were only 2 places in the Sword Palace he could go. One was the hall and the other was a cultivating room. When Yin entered the cultivating room, he gained a greater level of understanding of why the Black Sword Spirit said that this Pure Yang Sword Palace was a cultivating treasure land for him. The Pure Yang array within the cultivating room had not broken down, even after tens of millions of years. It was still able to gather heaven-earth yuan qi. The chamber's yang qi was shockingly pure. It would be half the work with double the results to cultivate here. Besides, the stone platform within the cultivating room for mediating was also a treasure. While sitting on it, Ian could feel his mind getting clearer and his body's yuan qi could be circulated even faster. This cultivating ground was even better than the central divine tower. Ian decided to stay within the Pure Yang Sword Palace for a long period of time. He had temporarily checked out of his residence in the Central Divine Tower's 69th floor right before he came out to train. The Central Divine Tower's residences were like inns. They were charged by the day. Even if one paid dragon scale runes in advance, as long as one was not staying in it, the dragon scale runes could be refunded. Now, Ian felt that he should come to Pure Yang Sword Palace often in the future. He did not need the Central Divine Tower much anymore. The 6 months he had reserved might be enough for his 6 years in the Tai A Divine City. This broken world also had night and day. Every day, Yun would stand before the 7 kills pillar, pondering over the sword intent. At night, he would meditate in the palace's chamber. When he was hungry, he would eat the food and water in his interspatial ring. When he traveled the divine wilderness, he had gathered plenty of desolate beast meat. It was enough for him to eat. As such, Yun began his first, long-term, reclusive training of his martial arts career. He wanted to consolidate his cultivation level and lay a foundation for his sword and saber dual cultivation during this reclusive training. Spring passed as autumn came. Time passed with Yun no longer knowing how much time had passed. He only knew his hair was constantly growing. His height had also rapidly shot up. A child between the age of 13 and 14 was in his growth spurt. Due to malnutrition while in the cloud wilderness, Yun's physical development had been slow. Now, however, consuming desolate beast meat and bone relics greatly nourished him, so his height grew by the day. Yun suddenly realized that the clothes he had brought with him were all one size too small. He had unconsciously grown to the height of an adult male. He would even be above average amongst adults. His body became more and more stout, and his muscles were toned but not exaggerated. Besides his face having a tinge of childishness, he looked no different from an adult when one looked at him from the back. Although Yun was unable to understand the sword intent contained within 7 kills pillar, after a long period of time, Yun experienced the baptism of the 7 kills pillar's sword intent. Slowly, Yun no longer needed to circulate the Taya sacred technique to withstand the sword intent. Unconsciously, the charm of the shocking sword attack left behind by the sword palace's owner, merged with the purple crystal and subtly branded itself within Yun's spiritual sea. This was an indescribable feeling. Now, although Yun was unable to slash out such a sword intent, he had deeply remembered all the structures of the laws contained within the sword intent. He felt that now, it was time for him to leave. He planned on returning to the Tai A Divine City. Below the Tai A Divine City's central divine tower, there was a sword tomb other than the saber tomb. Yun was now sure that the level of the sword and saber tombs were lower than that of the Pyryang Sword Palace. Relatively speaking, the laws within the sword tomb should be easier to understand than the Pyryang sword palaces. By entering the sword tomb, he could lay down the sword foundation before returning to the Pyryang sword palace to understand the sword intent left there. Then he might be able to use his sword intent to enter the Pyryang sword palace. He might even be able to refine the Pyryang sword palace, making it his own. Just thinking of this made Yun's blood boil. The treasure level of this palace far exceeded his imagination. He could even enlarge or contract it, keeping it within his body. It could fly and also tunnel through the ground. It could be used as a spiritual vessel. If he really gained control over such a palace, it would be extremely easy to traverse the divine wilderness. One had to know, to cross the divine wilderness, the airships used by the Taiya Divine Kingdom needed the cooperation of more than 10 human lords to power the aerial fortress. On the day Yun left, the Black Sword Spirit still remained asleep. It was in a deep slumber. It was not bothered by, nor did it question, whatever Yun did during this period. It might not even know. To the Black Sword Spirit, a youth like Yun was not worth its effort to care for. After all, it did not have much of its lifespan left. Yun packed his things and leaped down the Sword Palace's mountain. As he approached the big bronze door, the door would open. As such, Yun successfully returned to the burning hell. After such a long period of time, the Yun who entered and exited the burning hell were completely different. Whether it was his strength or his psyche, it could be said that Yun had been reborn. Chapter 303, City Lord's Birthday Banquet. In early winter, the Taiya Divine Kingdom had its first snow. 10 months had passed since Yun had left the Taiya Divine City. The batch of cultivators that entered the Taiya Divine City with Yun were now second years. And the new batch of Taiya Divine City cultivators had entered the Taiya Divine City 3 months ago, and they all had finished their initial jobs. Now, it was time for these rookies to participate in the rookie ranking competition. The rewards for this rookie ranking competition was 100% better than the last one. The main reason was that the Taiya Divine City Lord's birthday was coming. For a figure at the level of the Taiya Divine City Lord, they had one birthday banquet every 100 years. And on the day of the birthday banquet, he may be in reclusive training or out exploring ruins. Due to a multitude of reasons, a birthday banquet would not be held. In fact, the current Taiya Divine City Lord was a bit mysterious. In the last few centuries, he seldom appeared, not to mention holding any form of birthday banquets. The people in charge of the Taiya Divine City were mainly the two elders, Zhengu and Song Yan. When he suddenly announced his birthday banquet, it surprised many. Some people speculated that there were some special reasons. Of course, these were just things that the upper echelons considered. For the rest of the Taiya Divine City cultivators, it was definitely good news. Being able to attend the birthday banquet of such a legendary person and witnessing such an event was a great privilege. And during the birthday celebrations, many of the resources within Taiya Divine City were discounted and many of the rewards were increased. These were the most practical benefits. Of course, the rookies that ranked high in the rookie ranking competition would gain the most from the City Lord's birthday celebrations. In order to become first amongst the rookies, all of them used the moves all they had, showcasing their best skills. Now, it was the battle to decide who the best rookie was. The final battle was between a young man and a young girl. The young man's name was Lu Jie. He did not come from a prominent background, and he could only be considered to be an above-average noble. As for the young girl, Wen Yu, she came from a prominent family and she was indeed a proud daughter of heaven. Both of them were 13 years old. It could be said that many paid attention to their battle, so many senior cultivators came to watch. Xiaoniao and Xu Xiaoran were amongst the crowd. They were recognized the moment they entered the arena. Xiaonyo and Chu Xiaoran had both entered the top 1,000 of the Heaven Roll within a year. Especially Chu Xiaoran, who had reached the ranking of 890 on the Earth ranking at the end of her first year. Her Heaven ranking was more ridiculous, at 860. To enter the top 1,000 of the Heaven and Earth Rolls in the first year as a Taiya Divine City rookie was impressive. It was enough to stir up a storm in the Taiya Divine Kingdom. And Chu Xiaoran entered the top 900 of both rolls. It was even more astonishing. To this batch of Taiya Divine City rookies, their senior sister, Chu Xiaoran, was a legendary person. She had condensed an aspect totem before the Yuan Foundation realm, and her comprehension of the laws far exceeded warriors her own age. With so many rings of light surrounding Chu Xiaoran, this made many rookies become loyal fans of Chu Xiaoran. The appearance of Chu Xiaoran and Xiaonyo stirred up quite a frenzy. Rookies quickly made way for the two of them. Lu Jia and Wen Yu also admired the two of them. Although they were geniuses, they knew that compared to Xiaonyo and Chu Xiaoran, they were a distance away. They had even heard that in the last rookie ranking competition, Chu Xiaoran was not the champion. It was a youth named Yi Yun. But Yi Yun was too rash as teenager, and he went alone into the forbidden lands of Meteorite Abyss, Fallen Stargate to train. Nothing. Up to now, Yi Yun had disappeared for 10 months. Originally, the cultivator's identity token not only recorded the person's identity, dragon scale runes and the points gained from killing desolate beasts, but it also provided their location. But even by searching the spot, Yi Yun was still not to be found. As such, it was most likely that Yi Yun's identity token had been destroyed in Fallen Stargate. This identity token was considered an average magical item, and it was not that strong. In the chaotic environment within Fallen Stargate, it was not surprising for it to be destroyed by the pure Yang flames. As such, Yi Yun's situation was not optimistic. Some people believed that Yi Yun had died. According to the Taiya Divine City's regulations, people who disappeared for a year was considered dead. Historically, there were super crazy people who trained in the Divine Wilderness for nearly a year. Some people were originally thought to be dead, but they returned safely. But such events were rare. Even so, they were not like Yi Yun. According to the news brought back by Chu Xiaoran and Xiaonyo, Yi Yun had went into Fallen Stargate to train. Even the most awesome people did not dare train there for so long. Hence, many people felt that the odds were greatly against Yi Yun. In the Taiya Divine Kingdom, only geniuses who were nurtured were paid attention to. As for geniuses who disappeared or died, they would quickly be forgotten. As such, only Chu Xiaoran, Xiaonyo and the second-year cultivators deeply remembered of Yi Yun's past glories. As for the new batch of cultivators, they did not know Yi Yun's name. Even if they had heard it, it would only be a story of novel interest. The match had begun. Wen Yu and Lu Jie showcased all their skills and they fought impressively. The two of them had entered the top 4,000 of the Earth Roll. This match was their final battle to decide who was the champion amongst the rookies. The battle quickly entered the most intense stage. And amongst the crowd, Chu Xiaoran was drifting off. Her mind was clearly not focused on the match. What's the matter, Xiaoran? Thinking about Yi Yun? Xiaonyo, who was beside Chu Xiaoran, asked. Yes, Chu Xiaoran nodded. She came to watch this rookie ranking competition not to focus on Wen Yu and Lu Jie. The both of them would not pose a threat to Chu Xiaoran in the future. Chu Xiaoran came to this match to reminiscence about the battle she had with Yi Yun last year. Although she had lost in that battle, it was the battle that left the deepest impression in her life thus far. As such, she felt extremely strongly about it. Back then when we were training in Meteorite Abyss, if not for Yi Yun, we would have died when our path was blocked by the blue blood ape in the valley, and then later besieged by the weird fish in the deep pool. It can be said that Yi Yun had saved us twice. Who would have thought that we returned safely, but only Yi Yun disappeared? Even though Elder Song Yan also thinks that something happened to Yi Yun, I still think that Yi Yun would not die so easily. He has not returned because of some reason, Chu Xiaoran said faintly. Xiaonyo nodded and said, Yi Yun is a person with fate supporting him. He definitely won't die so easily, but people are worried because the connection to his identity token has been lost. We can only pray that our ancestors will bless him. In a swamp about 50 kilometers away from the Tai A Divine City. This swamp was not the Blackwater Swamp. It was an area very close to Tai A Divine City, so the desolate beasts in the swamp were very weak. Typically, only rookies would train here. It may be training, they were only out here to really see the world. They needed to familiarize themselves on how to work in a small team to kill desolate beasts. This was to lay a foundation for them to traverse the divine wilderness in the future. In the swamp, at this moment, there was a team of rookies killing desolate beasts. As this was their first time out of the city, they were extremely tense as if they were fighting the greatest of enemies, even though it was just 50 kilometers from Tai A Divine City. Leader, look there. There's a person. A team member in charge of alerting the team noticed that there was a youth at the end of the swamp walking over with a saber in hand. This youth seemed to dress very specially. He had a slender body, but the clothes on his body were clearly one size smaller. They were also greatly worn out, they could be described as rags. It seemed as if his hair had not been cut for a very long time. It reached down to his shoulders like they were wild grass. The saber in his hand was also halved. He seemed to have gone through a great crisis and then be robbed by someone after that. The team members were not even sure if this person was a Tai A Divine City cultivator. Could he be a divine wilderness barbarian? As the youth approached, the team became more alert. What are you? The 7 people asked with their weapons in hand. The youth smiled and exposed his 2 rows of white teeth. He had finally met some people after a long time. Loneliness was an emotion not to be dismissed. Even Yi Yun felt extremely lonely after cultivating alone for an extended period of time. Now when he suddenly saw people, he felt a warm feeling surging over him. Hello there, I want to ask, what year and month is it now? Upon hearing Yi Yun's question, the youths were shocked. Was this really a barbarian? The first thing he asked was the year and month. It's Qingfeng year 68, 7th day of the winter month. Qingfeng was the present divine emperor's reigning title. The Taiya Divine Kingdom used the reigning title as a marker through the years. Typically, people would only say the last 2 digits as the numbers in front were too long. So they were often omitted. 7th day of the winter month. That means it's November 7th. I actually spent so long cultivating in Pyongyang Sword Palace, Yi Yun sighed. Time really did not mean anything while cultivating. Hey, you haven't told us what sort of person are you? The team leader asked again. Me? Yi Yun laughed. Seeing the youth that looked even younger than him, he said, I'm a Tai A Divine City cultivator. Cultivator? A few of the cultivators were shocked. They looked strangely at Yi Yun. This fellow was also a cultivator? He sure was in a sorry state. As rookies, they were already in quite a tragic state. But now seeing this youth, they were nothing. He was no different from a beggar. Bro, were you surrounded by desolate beasts? Even your saber is broken, and your clothes are torn. Quickly return to the city. Prepare better in the future. Bring more disc arrays, array charms, lightning beads, etc. These one-time magical items may seem to be a waste, but they can save your life at the critical moment. You should not stinge on those dragon scale runes. The rookie team leader seemed to look extremely enthusiastic. He advised Yi Yun with his recently gained experience. Yi Yun chuckled and did not mind. He said, thanks. I'm indeed returning to the city. See you later. Since he was returning to Tai A Divine City, Yi Yun was in a good mood. He had been in reclusive training in the Pyongyang Sword Palace for nearly 10 months. On his way back, he had killed desolate beasts, consolidating his aspect totem. Now, Yi Yun's cultivation level had officially entered the peak of the Purple Blood realm. The next step was to begin forming the Yuan Foundation. Chapter 304: The new crop has yet to come in to replace the old. The highly anticipated rookie ranking competition had come to an end. At the end, Lu Jia had a slight edge and defeated Wen Yu, becoming the champion amongst the rookies. As the crowd in the rookie ranking competition dispersed, everyone discussed the final battle with great excitement. The arena was connected to all the major residences, so it was extremely crowded. It was at this moment that Yi Yun returned to the Tai A Divine City. On the way through, he noticed throngs of people and became slightly stunned. Oh? Why are there so many people? As Yi Yun looked at the rookies with a dumbfounded expression, the rookies were also stunned upon seeing Yi Yun. This was because Yi Yun's appearance was too extreme. The rookie ranking competition was a significant occasion, thus many people were very well dressed. In contrast, Yi Yun was wearing ragged clothes that were obviously one size too small. Not only was he unkempt, his saber was even half broken. All of this made him look like a beggar. It was severely out of place within the Tai A Divine City. Who is this person? This thought appeared in many people's minds. If the Tai A Divine City did not forbid unauthorized people from entering, there might have been people throwing money at Yi Yun. At this moment, not far away, a group with Wen Yu, Lu Jia, Xiongnu and Chu Xiaoran amongst them were walking over. The world of warriors respected those who were strong, so the four of them were treated like idols as they came over. Chu Xiaoran and Xiongnu were especially respected. No matter how crowded the streets were, everyone would make way for them. Seeing Yi Yun suddenly appear, Xiongnu and Chu Xiaoran became stunned. This was because, in nearly a year's time, Yi Yun had undergone too many changes. They were unable to recognize him with just a single glance. After staring at Yi Yun's face for a long while, Xiongnu and Chu Xiaoran looked at each other in the eye with an incredulous look. It's really him. Ha ha. Yi Yun. Xiongnu laughed boisterously. Xiongnu and Yi Yun had only been ordinary friends, but they could be considered as having experienced life and death together in Meteorite Abyss. Besides, Yi Yun had also saved Xiongnu's life. Their friendship naturally was no longer the same. Xiongnu squeezed out of the crowd and quickly strode towards Yi Yun, slapping him heavily on his shoulders. I knew you wouldn't die so easily. Ha ha. Yi Yun coming back alive was something that made Xiongnu happy from the bottom of his heart. Yi Yun also gave a hearty laugh and said, I was lucky, I went in a cursory circle around Death's Gate. After experiencing a year of loneliness, Yi Yun was overcome with emotion upon seeing a familiar face again. He had indeed nearly lost his life after being chased by the golden crow species. Yi Yun, you have finally returned. Chu Xiaoran also moved towards Yi Yun. When they bade farewell 10 months ago, Chu Xiaoran was a tiny bit taller than Yi Yun. Now however, she had to slightly look up at him. She felt that Yi Yun had undergone a complete change in the time they were separated. It was not only his physical appearance, but other aspects as well. As for what was different, Chu Xiaoran was unable to tell. Yi Yun, you have been out training for so long. What is your cultivation level? Xiongnu asked casually. Peak of Purple Blood. Yi Yun did not conceal it. Then you are slower than us. Xiaoran and I have already begun to condense the initial shape of the Yuan Foundation. You can think of us as being 1 foot through the door of the Yuan Foundation realm. In 2 months, we will definitely break through into the Yuan Foundation realm. Xiongnu's eyes lit up and he was eager to try it out just by talking about cultivation levels. In these 10 months, he had made significant progress. The huge leap from the peak of Purple Blood to a half-step within the Yuan Foundation made Xiongnu's Divine Strength Ox King skill progress 1 more level. There was a significant jump with every Divine Strength Ox King skill level. Xiongnu was now filled with confidence and he wanted to fight anyone he saw. Brother Yi, when will we train in the arena? Xiaonyo knew that Yi Yun was definitely strong, but he still brimmed with confidence. He couldn't help himself after seeing Yi Yun, a strong warrior peer. He felt that even if he was not Yi Yun's match, the difference would not be as great as the gap between them a year ago. The surrounding rookies turned dumbfounded upon seeing Xiaonyo and Xu Xiaoran speak so happily with Yi Yun. They never expected that this beggar-like person would be Xiaonyo and Xu Xiaoran's good friend. Yi Yun. Isn't he the champion of last year's rookie ranking competition? A portion of the rookies had heard of Yi Yun. They had some impressions of this name which was now nearly forgotten by Tai'an Divine City cultivators. It should be him, but this person actually defeated Xu Xiaoran in the last rookie ranking competition? Is that really true? When everyone heard this, they were dumbfounded. This guy was completely different from the preconceived expert in their minds. He did not have the air of an expert, yet he was actually stronger than Xu Xiaoran and Xiaonyo? Many rookies looked at Yi Yun with puzzlement and doubt. Xu Xiaoran and Xiaonyo's strength had been witnessed by many of them, and it was terrifying. However, the person in front of them looked like he came out from a refugee camp. He didn't look like he made the mark. They found it hard to believe that this person was a super expert. Even if he was very strong a year ago, he had disappeared for too long, and no one knew what he had experienced during this period. Could he really lead Xiaonyo and Xu Xiaoran? Many of them couldn't help but have thoughts like that. At this moment, Yi Yun decided to bid Xu Xiaoran and Xiaonyo farewell. Brother Yi, when you have time, come to the arena. When you do so, inform me. Xiaonyo still did not forget the matter of sparring with Yi Yun. In his opinion, Yi Yun's return was definitely to challenge the rankings. Yi Yun smiled and said, "Sure. Don't be perfunctory with me. You may not know this, but Qin Haotian, Li Xiao and the Qiao brothers have already left the Tai'an Divine City. Now the first few spots have opened up in the area and everyone is eyeing them. Some of the senior cultivators who have hope in being first are all in an intense battle for it. Especially because of the ongoing City Lord's birthday celebrations, the arena rewards have increased by a lot." As Xiaonyo said so, he pointed to the crowd behind him. The arena was in a hiatus because of the rookie ranking competition. If not, there would be countless numbers of people fighting, more people than usual. Oh? Qin Haotian, Li Xiao and the others have left? Yi Yun was stunned upon hearing that. Indeed, they had stayed in the Tai'an Divine City for a full 6 years, and it was time for them to leave. A pity. Yi Yun had known the famous names of Qin Haotian, Li Xiao and company ever since he entered the Tai'an Divine City. Yi Yun had always wanted to spar with Qin Haotian. However, Yi Yun was now only at the peak of purple blood, and due to the difference in cultivation level, he would not be Qin Haotian's match. Only Yi Yun himself knew the difference between him and Qin Haotian. And now, they had left Tai'an Divine City, leaving him with no opportunity to challenge them. This could only be described as a pity. Yes, with them here, it would be very difficult for us to challenge the Earth Roll. Xiaonyo laughed. He did not pay any attention to Yi Yun's thoughts. From his point of view, anyone who wanted to challenge Qin Haotian from their year was wishfully thinking. Now, the arena's overall strength has decreased. Many of the fifth-year cultivators are far weaker than Qin Haotian. Maybe in a year or two, we will be able to challenge the top 5 of the Heaven and Earth Rolls. Xiaonyo was very excited. If he could enter the Tai'an Divine City's top 5 in his 4th year, it would be a glorious achievement to be proud of. Yi Yun sighed. Indeed, the Tai'an Divine City did not give rise to extremely talented elites every year. The current Tai'an Divine City was a bit lacking. Yi Yun still liked to battle the peerless geniuses. With Qin Haotian gone, there was only Luo Hui'er left. However, she seldom appeared in the arena, nor did she challenge the Heaven or Earth Rolls. Her strength was a question mark. Brother Yi, it could not have been easy for you to return. Let us go to the Divine Moon restaurant and drink 2 cups. Xionyou wanted to take Yi Yun drinking. However, Yi Yun shook his head. Let's have it at another time. I have been gone for far too long. Now that I am back in Taia Divine City, I first need to greet Grandmaster Yuehua and Elder Song Yan. Amongst these 2 people, one was his quasi-master, and the other may not be his master but had taught him plenty. It was only right for Yi Yun to greet the seniors. About 1 hour later, in the Central Divine Tower's 69th floor. Miss. Dong ran to Luo Hoyer's training ground on her short legs. What's the matter this time? Luo Hoyer said impatiently. This maidservant of hers liked to be surprised at the slightest things. Donger puffed heavily as she hurriedly said, That person you especially hate, he is back. When Luo Hoyer heard this, her mouth curled. She said without paying attention, there are many people this missus hates. I cannot even remember all of them. Which, not typo, she refers to them as animals. What are you talking about? It's that Yi Yun. Donger used her chubby hands to wipe the sweat off her forehead as she panted. Yi Yun? Luo Hoyer was surprised. She subconsciously stopped practicing her family's heart sutras. Her facial expression changed as she remained silent for 10 seconds. The rascal who had disappeared nearly a year ago had actually returned. After thinking for a while, Luo Hoyer grunted, Good people die young, but disasters leave a mark for 1,000 years. I knew he wouldn't die so easily. That's right. Donger nodded her head strongly. Miss, do you want to go meet him? He's currently greeting Grandmaster Yuehua. Luo Hoyer's mouth twitched. What do I need to meet him for? In a few days, that toad will move back beside us. In the future, we will meet frequently. What a pain! Saying this, Luo Hoyer began practicing her martial arts again. However, she couldn't help herself from thinking about it. As she thought about it, her lips couldn't help but curl up as she revealed a sinister smile. Although she always found Yi Yun to be a pain, she never wished for the rascal to just die like that. Miss, why are you smiling? Donger asked curiously. Am I smiling? Luo Hoyer paused for a while and then grunted, I'm laughing because the rascal is back. I have something fun to play with again. See how I will make a fool out of him now, Kuku. Luo Hoyer began laughing happily. Donger ******************************************** and tried to think hard. It seems that Miss never succeeded in making a fool out of him? Of course, she would never dare to say this out loud. Chapter 305, Gathering of Experts. The news of Yi Yun returning to Taia Divine City quickly spread in less than half a day. Rookies did not have much concept of the name Yi Yun. However, it meant a lot to many of the second-year cultivators, especially his enemies. This name was unforgettable. That rascal actually didn't die. At this moment, in a small courtyard, there were a few people gathered with sullen faces. The 3 of them, who were sitting on chairs, were Li Hong, Yang Dingquan, and Yang Yefeng. Yang Dingquan and Yang Yefeng were brothers and came from the Chu royal residence. Yang Dingquan had taken the opportunity to gamble against Yi Yun in Yi Yun's battle with Li Hong and ended up losing greatly. The truth of the laws was lost, causing him to be punished by his family clan. As for Yang Yefeng, who had always been proud of his desolate heaven technique, he had his face torn off by Yi Yun. However, the person who hated Yi Yun the most were not amongst these people. In the corner of this courtyard stood a youth, full of scars and a missing arm. He was Yang Haoran. 10 months ago, inside Meteorite Abyss's frost pool, he was suddenly attacked by a school of weird fishes. His body had consequently been horribly mangled by the fish, pieces of flesh had been ripped off his body. Just recalling the experience gave him nightmares. With the rage of being unwilling to die, he had then rushed out of the frost lake with great difficulty and managed to eventually survive. He barely escaped death with his surface flesh and skin of his body gone. All he was left with was bloody remnant muscles. It was horrible. One of his arms had been ripped straight off by a large fish. Losing one arm was Yang Haoran's greatest pain. How could a warrior be left without a limb? It was not that there were no treasures that could restore a person's arm, they were just extremely expensive. Even his young family could hardly obtain one. And even if it was obtained, the arm which was regrown would be a normal human arm. One had to train it from the beginning all over again. It was easy to imagine what sort of hardship and suffering he had to undergo. Yang Haoran only felt hate. He hated the strange fish and hated everything. Originally, when Yang Haoran was bitten horribly and the calamity suddenly befell onto him, the pain prevented him from thinking about why he was suddenly attacked by the strange fishes. However, after recovering, he recalled the terrifying nightmare. He remembered that back then in the water he had heard an explosion and then saw a Yuan Chi beam. Within the beam, there was an arrow flying towards him. On the arrowhead, there was something green. It looked like grass. The arrow was not aimed at him and passed by him a short distance away from him, but accompanying that arrow was that school of terrifying strange fishes. As Yang Haoran recalled the scenes back then, he became more and more sure of what had happened. That Yuan Chi fluctuation was definitely from a warrior, not a desolate beast. Yang Haoran also slowly remembered that the grass on the arrowhead was the beast-luring grass he had previously used. All at once, Yang Haoran figured it out. The strange fish were deliberately being lured away from something and towards him, to purposely cause him harm. As for that arrow, amongst that group, only Yi Yun used a bow and arrow. Yang Haoran's anger reached its peak at that time. He wanted Yi Yun's blood to atone for his. However, following Yi Yun's disappearance, the point of him possibly dying in Meteorite Abyss appeased Yang Haoran's anger slightly. He considered it as a consequence Yi Yun deserved. Although he was unable to avenge himself, which made him unable to accept it, he knew that even if Yi Yun were to actually return, he could do nothing to him. He did not have proof. Even if he had proof, he could not raise a complaint against Yi Yun because he was the person who initially lured that mutated three-eyed spider to them. In fact, because of this event, Yang Haoran had to endure the immense pressure brought forth by Chu Xiaoran's Defender Duke family clan and Xionyou's reclusive family clan. The Yang family may have the royal bloodline, but it was too much for them to face two large family clans. With Yang Haoran's physical disability, there was even a chance of his family clan abandoning him. This placed Yang Haoran into an excruciating position. Yang Haoran was too busy with his own affairs for the past few months, so he had no energy to decide on how to seek revenge on Yi Yun. Thankfully, as time passed, the possibility of Yi Yun having died became increasingly more likely. However, today, Yi Yun returned. And besides looking a bit pathetic, he had no injuries at all. Looking back at himself, he was like a dog with a broken leg. This comparison nearly made Yang Haoran go crazy. Haoran, do not be rash. Yang Yefeng patted Yang Haoran's shoulder. After Yang Haoran became disabled, he became slightly insane and abnormal. Yang Yefeng was the most senior amongst the group, hence these people all treated him as their leader. Everyone, we can all be considered as under one camp. With Yi Yun's return, we have no idea how strong he has become. If he were to mature in the future, then we will really lose our place in Tai-A Divine City. The Tai-A Divine City's genius rearing strategy was similar to rearing venomous worms. A competition was held to obtain anything here. Many cultivators formed groups and associations to resist the competitive pressure. They were arch rivals of Yi Yun, so if Yi Yun were to mature and rank among the top of the heaven and earth rolls, their days would no longer be smooth sailing. Li Hong said, Yi Yun has gone to report to the elders. I heard his description. He had been trapped in a place for 10 months, which prevented him from returning. Trapped for 10 months? Ha! From his appearance after coming back, he must have experienced some huge disaster. This bastard sure has a strong life. He will definitely challenge the earth roll. We must first see what rank he is able to achieve before we decide on how to deal with him in the future. Earthroll, Yang Dingkuan gritted his teeth. If only he challenges me. Such a pity. After the last batch of cultivators left, Yang Dingkuan's ranking on the Earthroll had entered the top 40. This ranking was extremely far off for second-year cultivators. For example, Xionyou and Chu Xiaoran's ranks only ranged from 700 to 900. From Yang Dingkuan's point of view, Yi Yun was still far from being able to challenging the top 100 on the Earthroll. This meant he was not fated to exchange blows with Yi Yun. Rotten kid, where did you go to for the past 10 months? In the central divine tower, Song Yan ruffled Yi Yun's hair. Ah. Kid, you grew taller. Song Yan was short, so now he was shorter than Yi Yun. Yi Yun felt helpless. He had already listened to old man Song nag all day. Regarding the Burning Hell's explanation, Yi Yun did not dare to tell him that he had entered the deepest level of the Burning Hell. That place's pure yang qi was too rich. He had used the purple crystal to split the pure yang fire in order to enter the depths of the Burning Hell. Even sages would need to spend a lot of yuan qi to enter. Yi Yun could only say that he had been sucked into an unknown space. As such, he could explain how his identity token had lost its connection. This sparked the interest of Song Yan. He had already decided to form a team with Jian Ge to investigate the Burning Hell again. This gave Yi Yun a headache. He felt like he was cheating the old man. This so-called unknown space was definitely something that Song Yan could not find. Song Yan asked many questions regarding this unknown space, and Yi Yun only gave some vague descriptions. These sort of places tended to be vague and insubstantial, and with Yi Yun's cultivation level, it was not something he could understand, so it was normal. Song Yan would naturally not suspect a thing, nor question him. So how about it? When are you challenging the Earthroll? Let's see the fruits of the past 10 months of cultivation. Song Yan was looking forward to seeing Yi Yun's current strength. I do not have any plans on challenging the Earthroll for now. Not challenging the Earthroll? What are you doing? Song Yan pinched his beard, clearly unhappy. I plan on going into the Sword Tomb. Sword Tomb? Song Yan stared. Aren't you doing well in the Saber Tomb? Why are you going to the Sword Tomb? Song Yan was practically speechless. This Yi Yun really made one worry. He had not fully understood the Saber Tomb, yet he kept having his sights on the Sword Tomb. Kid, what craziness is this? You cannot be giving up on the saber and picking up the sword, right? Or, do you want to use both saber and sword? Thinking of this, Song Yan really wanted to pry open Yi Yun's brain to see what messy thoughts this kid had. Warriors who could thoroughly learn everything about one weapon were already amazing. To master 2 weapons was something crazy. It was a task with no returns. Since ancient times, the Taiya Divine Kingdom sages had never done such a thing. Of course, it was common for people to pick up bows and concealed weapons as a side weapon. Bows and concealed weapons were ancillary weapons used to attack from a distance and could be put to great use during critical times. I'm just thinking of taking a look. Maybe I will get some inspiration from the Sword Tomb. Yi Yun equivocated. Even with such an explanation, Song Yan's face turned sullen. Kid, back then when I let you choose a totem mystic technique, you chose the 10,000 beast totem. Now, without having completed the 10,000 beast totem, you still aren't even thinking of switching to a more possible totem mystic technique. And now you are even thinking about the Sword Tomb. You sure are capable. Song Yan was also worried that Yi Yun would end up wasting his time trying to learn too many things, with all of them being extremely profound. However, no matter what Song Yan said, Yi Yun did not budge. He wanted to go into the Sword Tomb to gain greater experience and inspiration from within. Finally, Song Yan gave in. He demanded, "All right. I will let you enter the Sword Tomb once. However, I will say the unpleasantries first. Once you exit the Sword Tomb, you are to challenge the Earth roll and enter the top 500. No. Top 400. No. 300. If you cannot enter the top 300, you are to focus on cultivating your saber skills without any other distractions. You are also to choose another totem mystic technique. And stop thinking of this and that for me in the future. Sun Yan indignantly said. He could tell that Yi Yun's cultivation level was still at the peak of purple blood, a bit worse than Chu Xiaoran and Xionyou's. Even if Yi Yun's talent was greater than Chu Xiaoran and Xionyou, and had strength that exceeded Xionyou and Chu Xiaoran combined, it would be impossible for him to enter the top 500. One had to know that all cultivators who ranked in the top 500 of the Earth roll were at the peak of the beginning stages of the Yuan Foundation realm. There was a huge gap between the Purple Blood realm and the Yuan Foundation realm. It was extremely difficult for a person at the peak of the Purple Blood realm to battle against a person at the peak of the beginning stages of the Yuan Foundation realm. Still, the top 500 was not enough. Sun Yan was afraid that Yi Yun had some fortuitous opportunities while he was missing, and could now enter the top 400. That would make the kid feel smug once again. Hence, Sun Yan purposely set the goal to be the top 300. This was to ensure that he could rid Yi Yun of all his unrealistic ideas, preventing him from being overly ambitious. Sun Yan never expected that Yi Yun would immediately agree with Assure, after setting such a difficult objective. Sun Yan had expected Yi Yun to go in a rage, he never expected him to immediately agree to it. He was that confident? Sun Yan was a bit dumbfounded. He clicked his tongue twice as a malicious smile formed on his lips. This kid must still not know how strong the top 300 of the Earth roll is. Even plenty of mid-stage Yuan Foundation realm cultivators are unable to enter the top 300. Underestimating it will only lead to misery. Upon thinking of this, Sun Yan felt assured. It was good to let Yi Yun suffer some setbacks, to prevent him from thinking he can do everything every day. The day of the Tai A Divine City's City Lord's birthday banquet was quickly approaching. That afternoon, a huge airship flew above the Tai A Divine City. This airship was about 2,000 feet long and was completely covered in black scales. It was like a huge flying monster. When it passed by Tai A Divine City, it cast a huge shadow. This is... The Tai A Divine City's cultivators looked up at the airship and were stunned. This airship was different from the Tai A Divine City airships, and it was much larger. Seeing this flying monster, many people could not help but feel a sense of awe and a feeling of being small. Some people noticed that there was a strange symbol on the side of the huge airship. It was a blob of dark clouds, with a black dragon flying within the clouds. Yunlong, Cloud Dragon, Divine Kingdom. Some more knowledgeable people said after seeing this symbol. The Yunlong Divine Kingdom shared a border with the Tai A Divine Kingdom. The Tai A Divine Kingdom was in the east while the Yunlong Divine Kingdom was in the west. To the north of both countries' northern borders was the vast divine wilderness. Be it comparing the country's power, their heritage, areas, or population, the Yunlong Divine Kingdom was almost on par with the Tai A Divine Kingdom. With two great nations together, there was bound to be some conflict over resources, land, and other reasons. However, with the threat of the divine wilderness, the two countries had to maintain the peace. They could not have any large-scale wars or they wouldn't be able to resist the occasional large-scale beast hordes coming from the divine wilderness. Hence the Yunlong Divine Kingdom and the Tai A Divine Kingdom could be said to coexist in a cooperative and competitive state. No one expected that the Yunlong Divine Kingdom's large airship would fly to the Tai A Divine City. This airship was definitely a royal airship of the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. The appearance of the ambassadors of the Yunlong Divine Kingdom arriving in the Tai A Divine City in such an airship was a show of their country's strength. At the same time, it also meant that whoever was riding the airship was a great figure in the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. The distance between the Yunlong Divine Kingdom and Tai A Divine City is not short. Why would their ambassadors come to the Tai A Divine City? Someone asked subconsciously. Oh. Could it be that they are here for the city lord's birthday banquet? Someone had a flash of brilliance. Everyone felt it was possible upon hearing it. It had to be so. The only big matter in recent times in the Tai Divine City was the city lord's birthday banquet. Strange, the Taizar Tai Divine Kingdom has with the Yunlong Divine Kingdom isn't that great. Why would they especially send an ambassador to send their birthday wishes for our city lord's birthday banquet? Some more thoughtful people felt something amiss. At this moment, within the large airship, in a luxurious hall, a fat man in a yellow clothes was holding a meter-long roasted desolate beast leg. He was tearing off the meat with his mouth. The thin leg was not completely roasted to well done, so it still contained some blood. As the fat man in yellow ate the meat, he stood high above, looking condescendingly down at the Tai Divine City cultivators through his airship window. From his angle, the throngs of people below him were no different from ants that he could crush with his feet. These are the Tai Divine City cultivators. They don't seem like anything special to me. As the fatty in yellow laughed, he licked the desolate beast blood from around his mouth with his excessively long tongue. A sardonic look of contempt flashed in his eyes. Behind the fatty in yellow was a princess-like girl, dressed in a purple palace gown. She held a wineglass in her hand as she tasted the red liquid inside it. She emitted a charming smile. His Highness had previously said that the Tai Divine City's place in the Tai Divine Kingdom is equivalent to our Yunlong Divine Kingdom's Yunlong 72 pagodas. Do not look down on them. Haha, whatever. We are here to give our birthday wishes, not here to fight. Of course, if necessary, it is basic courtesy to see what they are capable of. The yellow-robed fatty casually said as the girl in the gown shook her head gently. It is not an ordinary celebration. This time, Lord 7-Star Pagoda owner wanted to come personally and discuss something with the Tai Divine City's city lord. Reports say that it has something to do with the mysterious person who suddenly appeared. Those are matters for the higher-ups. I cannot care less. I'll just eat all the meat I want at this birthday banquet. Of course, if there's a fight, call on me. As the fatty said that, he tore off another piece of meat the size of a chicken and swallowed it down after a few chews. A meter-long beast leg was quickly completely finished. He casually wiped his oily hands on his clothes and glanced at the corner of the hall. What say you, I? In the corner of the hall sat a black-clothed youth with a pale face. His legs were opened up with his knees bent. Both his hands were resting on his knees and a black sword leaned diagonally by his legs. His head was slightly bowed. His hanging hair covering his eyes, preventing others from seeing his face. In the hall, he was strangely quiet. It was so quiet that it made people oblivious to his existence. Facing the quiet black-clothed youth, the yellow-robed fatty gulped a mouthful of saliva and nearly choked. It was really asking to be rebuffed trying to speak to this rascal. At this moment, the door to the hall was pushed open. A stout man walked in with a deadpan expression. He was wearing a thick fur cloak, with the collar standing up. His feet was covered in long rigid boots with desolate bones as their base. His steps emitted the bone-ringing sounds of pada, pada. We are here. Let's go down. Facing this male, the yellow-robed fatty and the girl in the gown became respectful. Yes, Lord Pagoda owner. The pale youth sitting by the corner also slowly stood up. With the airship's door opened, the four of them flew towards the central divine tower in a light beam. Someone flew out. Many from the Tai Divine City were straining their eyes. They did not know who the people were, but guessed that they were mighty figures of the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. With these thoughts in mind, they never expected that a few days later, there would be airships from unknown factions flying to the Tai Divine City. A large number of people disembarked and entered the central divine tower over the passing days. These factions hung their own symbols, some were easily recognized by others. Other than the Yunlong Divine Kingdom, there was also the Tianguang royal dynasty. It was a country about half the size of the Yunlong Divine Kingdom, but it was not to be underestimated. Besides them, there were also ambassadors from other independent family clans. These independent family clans did not belong to any country, but they had great heritage. A family clan was able to compare with a country. The existence of some of these family clans was not shorter than the Tai Divine Kingdoms. They controlled terrifying powers that could not to be ignored. There were more and more people coming. It was really like an assembly of heroes. This made the Tai Divine City cultivators shocked. How resounding was this city lord birthday banquet! A day later, another mighty figure appeared. This person's identity made many of the Tai Divine City cultivators hold their breaths. He was the Tai Divine Kingdom's crown prince. There were countless numbers of children from the Tai Divine Kingdom's royal family. Just in the Tai Divine City, there were plenty of cultivators with the surname Yang. These elites, who had Yang as a surname, would have blood relations with the royal household if their bloodline was traced. However, compared to the current crown prince, they were nothing. Not only in status and identity, but also in strength. The crown prince was about 3,000 years old. He was chosen amongst the thousands of children from the royal household and possessed extraordinary talent. With the royal household's efforts to nurture him, he was now just a step away from being labeled a human sage. Once he became a sage, the current divine emperor would hand over the throne to him. Hence, the crown prince's position in the Tai Divine Kingdom was obvious. The crown prince is here. This celebration is going to be amazing. People knew that this celebration would be the greatest celebration they would ever experience in their lives. Chapter 306, The Birthday Banquet begins. As people gathered in Tai Divine City, Yi Yun was in the Sword Tomb trying to gain some understanding of the sword truths without knowing the time of the day. Originally, Yi Yun thought that having experienced the Saber Tomb, which came from the same origins as the Sword Tomb, it would be extremely easy for him to understand the sword truths with his entry into the Sword Tomb. However, it was only when Yi Yun entered the Sword Tomb did he realize that it was completely different from the Saber Tomb. In the Saber Tomb, there were saber scar marks and the saber truths, 32 words. Each word contained a saber truth. But the Sword Tomb did not have those things. In there was a fascinating stone wall. Closing one's eyes and meditating in front the stone wall would envelope someone in illusions. In these illusions, there were rushing rivers, cascading waterfalls, the virtual images of mountains of corpses and a sea of blood, and there were also flying sword beams. It seemed like the person who left behind the Sword Tomb had cast all the scenes he had seen in his life into the stone wall. As such, people of the future would sense these scenes while meditating in front of the stone wall. These are the things that the Sword Tomb owner saw when comprehending the way of the sword. Yi Yun opened the purple crystal's energy vision and a light flashed across his mind. The Sword Tomb owner had seen all these images that allowed him to comprehend his sword intent, hence, he had left his own sword intent within those scenes, allowing people of the future to ponder over them. Yi Yun had spent 10 months in the Pyongyang Sword Palace and he failed to understand the Pyongyang Sword Palace's owner's sword intent. However, it still allowed Yi Yun to have a deep understanding of the sword truths. After trying out the hardest sword truths that were closest to its origins, and then trying to gain insight on a relatively easier sword truth, this was much easier. If it was said that the sword intent left behind in the Pyongyang Sword Palace was a tall mountain that was very difficult to scale, then the sword truths left behind in the Sword Tomb were like stone steps used to scale that tall mountain. Yi Yun went up a step at a time. Time passed. Yi Yun did not know how long had passed as he meditated in the Sword Tomb. He had entered a completely ethereal state, being one with nature in a spiritual sense. The shocking sword scars from the Pyongyang Sword Palace kept resonating in Yi Yun's mind. It was as if those huge sword scars were carved in Yi Yun's mind, slowly overlapping with the images from within the Sword Tomb. It was unknown when a rusty broken sword appeared in Yi Yun's hands. The broken sword emitted a cold frosty feeling, making Yi Yun's mind even clearer. He gently waved the sword slowly, as if he was slashing at invisible spider webs. Slash after slash seemed to be completely random, but in the illusionary world, Iyun seemed to have slashed apart a waterfall, splitting a river, and the fantasy-like saber beam and sword shadows seemed to interweave with each other. While Iyun was in a trance-like state of trying to comprehend the sword, the Taiya Divine City was already bustling with activity. In the central Divine Tower, there was a place for welcoming guests, named Splendid Room. The Taiya Divine City's City Lord's birthday banquet was to be held here. Although the Splendid Room was in the central Divine Tower's hall, one would see flowers and bamboo upon entering. These plants were treasures, and between the plants, there was emerald green water that quietly flowed around, as if it was a jade belt. If any guest wanted to drink in this green bamboo forest, they could simply put wine glasses into the flowing water and drink from it, and it could be described as drinking water from a winding canal. Beyond the bamboo forest, there were exquisite little tables. The tables were about 1 foot tall, and they only allowed people to sit kneeling on the ground. There were all sort of exquisite spiritual foods placed on the tables. They were all treasures amongst treasures and extremely expensive. The foods contained rich amounts of yuan qi, allowing one's cultivation level to benefit from eating it. People who were qualified to sit at those tiny tables for the Taiya Divine City's City Lord's birthday banquet were all important figures from various large factions. And for VIPs like the Taiya Divine City's City Lord and the 7-star pagoda owner, they were seated near the flowing water at the center of the entire hall. Around the table, there were pavilions. Each pavilion had one large table, and all the young elites from each country would sit here. Except for the Taiya Divine Kingdom, who was the host, all the other factions were only allocated one pavilion. Those who could sit in the pavilions were the strongest youths from each faction. And for the Taiya Divine Kingdom's pavilion, the relatively outstanding Taiya Divine City cultivators were selected. For example, the top 30 geniuses from the Heaven, Earth, Man rolls of honor, and the leaders of other age groups. For example, the third-year cultivators Li Hong, the second-year cultivators Chu Xiaoran and Xionyou, and the top 3 rookies of this year's batch, Lu Jia, Wen Yu, and a short fat youth. Oh? Why isn't Iyun here? The Taiya Divine Kingdom's younger generation was split amongst 6 pavilions. Wen Yu, Lu Jia, Xionyou, and Chu Xiaoran were sitting together. Lu Jia scanned the surroundings and noticed that Iyun was not around. This surprised Lu Jia. With Iyun's stature, he was definitely qualified to sit here. I don't know, maybe he's in reclusive training, Chu Xiaoran casually said and did not bother about it. In fact, it was pretty pointless for her to join such a banquet. She was not a person who liked the noise and excitement. She was only here to gain an understanding of the young elites from the various factions. Oh? It's the people from the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. At this moment, the most important figures from the various factions had not arrived. Only the younger generation of the various factions were in the hall. Chu Xiaoran saw about a dozen youths walk over. Leading them was a fatty in yellow. His face had a friendly smile, but his eyes contained arrogance. He scanned over the crowd and skipped over Chu Xiaoran without pausing and looked to the pavilion besides Chu Xiaoran's. In that pavilion sat 2 of Taiya Divine City's most influential figures, Yao Dao and Yang Qian. Back when Iyun first entered the Taiya Divine City, Yao Dao and Yang Qian were 15 years old. Back then, they were ranked in the top 100 of the Earth roll. Now, after a year, Yao Dao and Yang Qian had spent 4 years in the Taiya Divine City, and they were now 5th-year cultivators. Their cultivation level had reached the mid-stages of the Yuan Foundation realm about half a year ago. With Qin Haotian and his batch completing their training, they had left the Taiya Divine City. Hence, Yao Dao and Yang Qian had entered the top 5 of the Earth roll. Without Qin Haotian, Li Xiao and company, there were not many presentable 6th-year geniuses in the Taiya Divine City other than Luo Hui'er. But Luo Hui'er never challenged the heaven or earth rolls. No one knew how strong she was in other aspects other than her desolate heaven technique. Hence, the 5th years Yao Dao and Yang Qian were now considered the best. People believed that the two of them would replace Qin Haotian and Company's position, and they would soon dominate both heaven and earth roles. As for Yang Haoran, Yang Dingkuan and Company, although they were outstanding, they were a lot worse than Yao Dao and Yang Qian. The batches below, the 4th and 3rd year cultivators, were even worse. The 3rd year cultivators only had Li Hong. And he had been defeated by Yi Yun, a person 1 year younger than him, in the last rookie ranking competition. This was definitely an embarrassment for the 3rd year cultivators. The Yunlong Divine Kingdom's yellow-clothed fatty had a general idea of who were the outstanding ones amongst the Tai Divine City's cultivators before the birthday banquet began. Hence, once he entered, he only paid attention to Yao Dao and Yang Qian. Sensing the yellow-clothed fatty's brazen gaze of sizing them up, Yang Qian's frowned. This fatty wants to fight. Yang Qian was a proud person and he had a bad temper. Feeling the yellow-clothed fatty's animosity, he was enraged. This fatty is not simple. He is looking at your strength. His gaze is indeed irritating, as if it is the gaze of a businessman checking out his goods. Beside Yang Qian, Yao Dao said that calmly. His hand could not help but touch the short saber by the side of his body. Yang Qian, there might be some impromptu performances for the city lord's birthday banquet. It will be the moment for all the young elites from the various factions to compete against each other. Now with Senior Qin gone, those who can handle this scene are probably the two of us. Hence, this fatty is sizing you up. Yao Dao quickly guessed the fatty's intentions. Yang Qian grunted, I see. That's also good. Yang Qian was not afraid of a challenge. Battling against others amongst the younger generation was all he could wish for. He especially looked forward to sparring with young elites from outside of the Tai Divine Kingdom. At this moment, the splendid room's door opened, and with some attendants guiding them, the important figures from the various factions arrived. Amongst them were the two leaders. One of them was a stout man wearing a heavy fur cloak and bone-laced military boots. He was the Yunlong Divine Kingdom's 7-star pagoda owner. And the other person was a middle-aged man in a green gown. He looked happy, but his sword-like eyebrows revealed an extremely sharp aura. This person did not seem to give any sense of oppression. In fact, he looked like a scholar from the mortal world. He seemed to read the books of sages, but was thoroughly weak. He was Tai Divine City's city lord. Chapter 307, Shepherd Boy. Translator, Sitalan. Editor, Sitalan. Seeing the middle-aged scholar appear, many of the young men and women in the Tai Divine City pavilions held their breaths. Wen Yu, Chu Xiaoran, Jianyo, Yang Qian, Yao Dao. Even the most arrogant geniuses became extremely respectful while facing the Tai Divine City's city lord, as they all had a deep sense of reverence for him. This was the first time they met the Tai Divine City's city lord. Not only them, not even Qin Haotian or Li Xiao had ever managed to see the city lord in the past. As the middle-aged scholar, 7-star pagoda owner and the important figures from various large factions entered, all the young elites in the pavilions stood up. Seeing these legendary figures made them extremely excited and also made them feel a kind of pressure. They thought that once the important figures were seated, the birthday banquet would begin, but unexpectedly, these people went straight past the water canal, going straight into one of the side chambers in the splendid room. In the splendid room, there were side chambers used for negotiations. The doors to the side chamber closed the moment they entered. Seeing the group of important figures disappear into the side chamber, left the juniors hanging and confused. Wasn't this supposed to be the city lord's birthday banquet? The banquet had been laid out, yet these important figures did not take their seats and immediately went into one of the side chambers for negotiations? At that instant, many of the juniors looked at each other, unsure of what to do. What the heck? The yellow-clothed fatty from the Yunlong Divine Kingdom was planning to dig in, but without the important figures seated, he could not eat. What's the matter? The other young elites from the Yunlong Divine Kingdom were also filled with questions. At that moment, the girl in a palace gown calmly said, "Maybe, this negotiation is the main purpose for this birthday banquet." At that moment, in the side chamber of the splendid room, many important figures from the various factions were seated. The seats were clearly split into 3 regions. One region was led by the middle-aged scholar. Behind him were the various factions affiliated with the Tai Divine Kingdom. Another region was led by the 7-star pagoda owner. Behind him were the factions affiliated with the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. The last region was the 12 countries alliance from the south. These 12 countries were smaller than the Tai Divine Kingdom and the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. However, with the 12 countries in an alliance, they were powerful enough to form a tripartite with the other 2 divine kingdoms. And between these 3 regions, there were various reclusive family clans and some scattered smaller countries. In some sense, they formed the last powerful faction, but they were not united. This simple negotiation would go according to the clearly distinguished powers. The Tai Divine Kingdom and the Yunlong Divine Kingdom had been rivals for many years. There was constant friction between these 2 countries, but they never fought because of the constant fear of the divine wilderness. At that moment, the Tai Divine City's city lord was sitting in the host's seat, holding a scroll in his hands. "I am honored by everyone attending my Yang's birthday banquet. Gathering all of you here is because there is an important thing we need to discuss. I wonder if everyone present has heard the legend of the shepherd boy." As the middle-aged scholar spoke, he opened up the scroll which contained a picture. It was a youth, riding on a green cow in the picture. He held a piccolo in his hand and wore a bamboo hat. He dressed simply and looked like a handsome young farmer boy. Shepherd boy? Some people frowned, obviously they had never heard this name. However, there were a few people whose expressions changed the moment they heard the word shepherd boy. "I see. No wonder the city lord has invited us over. I have heard the legend of the shepherd boy. 10 years ago, he appeared in the western regions and stirred up a bloody storm. I never expected him to suddenly appear here." An elder said with a deep tone. "Who is the shepherd boy?" Some people frowned as they asked. Everyone present were important figures, so they did not feel good about not knowing something others knew. "Let me tell you." The middle-aged scholar lightly threw the shepherd boy picture and it flew up to a wall. He then slowly said, "The shepherd boy is a mysterious youth. Of course, he just looks young. As for his actual age, I do not know. Shepherd boy is just a nickname of his. I am unsure of what his real name is. The origins of the shepherd boy is a mystery. We do not know who he is, but we do know that he is not human." "Oh. What?" A green-clothed elder was alarmed when he heard this. He carefully looked at the painting on the wall. It was clearly a young man. How could he not be human? Indeed. The last time the shepherd boy appeared, he caused great misery in the western regions. Because, every time he appears, a massive beast horde will accompany him. At first, it will just be small-scaled. Later on, it will become more and more terrifying. There might even be many primordial strains. Some people even suspect that the shepherd boy is able to control desolate beasts. Control desolate beasts? People were alarmed hearing this. Could this shepherd boy be a desolate beast in human form? Someone couldn't help but ask. However, the middle-aged scholar shook his head. "I am afraid not. To date, in the most authoritative ancient records, there has been no records of a desolate beast taking on human form. Of course, we cannot rule out the possibility of a desolate beast cultivating to such an unimaginable realm that it is able to take on a human form. Usually, there are beast hordes in the divine wilderness, but the scale of them will not be large. And the desolate beast's intelligence is not high. The beast horde will charge and destroy aimlessly, like loose sand. It can be easily defeated, but, with the shepherd boy, it will be different. The beast horde will become very organized and strategic, making it extremely difficult to handle. 10 years ago, when the shepherd boy first appeared in the western region, he brought a huge disaster to the western regions. Back then, the shepherd boy's goal was the ancient family clan in the western regions, the Shinto family clan. The Shinto family clan had an extremely deep heritage, so they were able to withstand the large-scale beast horde. However, they suffered great losses. After the shepherd boy failed, he conjured up a few beast hordes in several places. Blood flowed like rivers, but these beast hordes were much weaker compared to the one that went against the Shinto family clan. It felt like it was a form of revenge. The middle-aged scholar told the story of the shepherd boy in a calm tone. Shinto family clan? When people heard the name of the family clan, many of the important figures present looked at each other. This family clan's heritage was extremely terrifying. It was much stronger than the Tai-A Divine Kingdom and the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. Why did the shepherd boy go against a family clan of that power level? Everyone, you do not have to worry too much. Seeing the ugly expressions of the principal figures of the various factions, the middle-aged scholar then continued, the Shinto family clan might have had some feud with the shepherd boy, resulting in that huge battle. As for us, we should not have any crossed paths with him. However, since he has appeared in our Tai-A Divine Kingdom's northern regions, it is still very worrying. And once there is a beast horde, it will not just be the Tai-A Divine Kingdom's matter. Being closely related and having common interests, we all share the same fate, so all of you might be implicated too. The middle-aged scholar slowly said this as the crowd listened to him with worried expressions. This topic was not something they could ease up on. Everyone, the reason for gathering everyone here today is to form an alliance, so that we will be able to combat the possible beast horde. The middle-aged scholar revealed the main purpose of this birthday banquet. Everyone had different expressions when they heard this. Although the Tai-A Divine City's city lord was right about the fact that the surrounding countries would be implicated if there was a beast horde, the appearance of the shepherd boy was in the Tai-A Divine Kingdom's northern region, not near their countries. So the first one to suffer would be the Tai-A Divine Kingdom in the event of a beast horde. After all, the Tai-A Divine Kingdom had to be destroyed first before it became their turn. In fact, this beast horde might not be too large in scale and might not even be able to destroy the Tai-A Divine Kingdom. If so, the Tai-A Divine Kingdom would be able to withstand the beast horde by suffering losses. If that was the case, it would be none of their business. Also, there was another point. Although the beast horde would cause huge losses of lives, even to the point of sages dying, it was a great opportunity to train up experts with every beast horde. Warriors had to undergo hardship and killing to mature. Besides, after a beast horde, there would be extremely large amounts of resources. For example, the body of a killed primordial strain was full of treasures. If one could withstand a beast horde, it was also an opportunity to be reborn from the ashes like a phoenix. The best outcome would be both the Tai-A Divine Kingdom and the beast horde suffering great losses. With them joining late in the war, they would reduce the risk of their own sages and geniuses dying, only receiving the benefits. The Tai-A Divine City's city lord was no simple person. How could he not figure out their wishful thinking? In time, many of the important figures of the various factions were having disparate thoughts. Facing this possible disaster and the chance of fortuitous opportunities, everyone had their own plans. Everyone wanted to avoid the risks but reap the benefits. Unless the shepherd boy is able to conjure up a beast horde that really is able to destroy more than 10 countries, it will be impossible for the various factions to resist the beast horde without any demands. At that moment, the Yunlong Divine Kingdom's 7-star pagoda owner said, "City Lord Yang, you mentioned an alliance. I wonder, who will be taking on the responsibility of the alliance's leader?" The crowd's attention was instantly attracted the moment the 7-star pagoda owner said this. The alliance's leader was not just a problem of dignity, it also involved the commanding powers. After the beast horde was over, there would be unspeakable benefits to the person holding the commanding powers. This was because each war had to do with deaths and injury, losses, and also the victory items. There might be certain wars where various factions would seek to fight, but there were other wars that no one would want to send their own warriors to their deaths. The middle-aged scholar smiled upon hearing the 7-star pagoda owner's question. He answered, "There will be no need for a leader for the alliance. All it needs is a council, consisting of all the important figures from the various factions." Oh? Council? If the council is in constant debate without a consensus? This is when an alliance leader is necessary. The 7-star pagoda owner's tone sounded calm, but it had a hidden sharpness to it. People knew that the relationship between the Yunlong Divine Kingdom and the Taiya Divine Kingdom was not friendly. Now, with core interests involved, how could a battle be avoided? Chapter 307, Competing for Assembly Seats. According to the original schedule, the city lord's birthday banquet would have lasted for 7 days. The important figures from the various factions would only attend the first 2 days. To the juniors, these 2 days were of extreme importance as it was a stage for them to showcase their skills. The elites from various large factions were all extremely proud. How could they not flaunt their strength with all of them gathered together? Under normal circumstances, the demonstrations during the birthday banquet were perfunctory, and there wouldn't be any real fights on stage. It was just for people to show off their specialty skills as a performance to excite the banquet's atmosphere. Originally, many of the juniors had prepared their performances, such as sparring, swordplay, etc., and they were eager to get into action, hoping to shine during the banquet and win rewards. But they never expected that the mighty figures all entered a negotiation room on the first day. They did not come out even after 6 hours. What is the meaning of this? Many of the juniors were dumbfounded. The food was already cold, yet not a single soul of that negotiation group was seen. It was only until midnight that the large door to the side chamber opened. The mighty figures from the various large factions filed out of the side chamber. Leading the way was the Taiya Divine City's city lord. He still wore his green gown and he gave off a breezy feeling with his faint smile on his face. But the sharper people knew that something was amiss. There was a feeling of confrontation amongst the important figures. Each party from the various factions was seated according to their respective statures. The atmosphere seemed to turn cold. The middle-aged scholar stood up and raised a glass of wine. "It is my honor that everyone is here to participate in my birthday banquet. Due to a sudden turn of events today, I have neglected all of you. Please forgive me for being a bad host. Seeing that the sun has set, please feel free to eat. The banquet will temporarily cease tomorrow and it will be held 7 days later. This splendid room is a bit too small, thus the venue will be the arena. It is much roomier there." The city lord gave a simple opening speech, which seemed like pleasantries, but all the young elites from the various factions were shocked. The birthday banquet would be held 7 days later? This birthday banquet could still be pushed back? And, this splendid room is small. This splendid room was tens of feet in radius and it could accommodate more than 1,000 people easily. How could it be small? And the middle-aged scholars mentioning of switching to the arena made many juniors present feel a surge of sharpness. The legendary figures from the various factions did not speak a single word, but they clearly silently accepted it. This birthday banquet's atmosphere was sullen as the juniors present felt the solemn atmosphere. An elite youth from a small faction had specially prepared a swordplay show. After everyone was eating silently for 15 minutes, he could not endure it any further and jumped out, announcing that he was going to provide some entertainment for the birthday banquet. The legendary figures from the various large factions lacked any interest. Seeing their elders' sullen faces, none of the juniors had the mood to cheer, what more, jumping out to spar with the youth. Due to the awkward atmosphere, the youth decided to stop demonstrating his swordplay in the end. As a result, no other junior came forward to get snubbed. The first day's birthday banquet ended in such a depressing atmosphere. After the birthday banquet ended, there was a meeting of the Taiya Divine City elders. Jiangu, Song Yan, Grandmaster Yuehua and other Divine City elders were looking at the city lord. How is the situation? The elders did not enter the side chamber for the negotiations, so they did not know the results of the negotiations. They only noticed that the birthday banquet's atmosphere was heavy, so they guessed that the result was not optimistic. We did not manage to come to a consensus. The main problem is the commanding rights. The middle-aged scholar shook his head gently. With so many countries in an alliance, there was indeed a need for a commander to unite them. If they were not united and fought their own battles, then the battle situation would be terrible. One had to know that it was the shepherd boy leading the beast horde, and it was a horde that did not fear death. The final result of a group of timid and disunited troops against a monolithic beast horde was obvious. On the battlefield, there would be inevitable results of narrow escapes or even everyone dying on the battlefield. As such, whoever had the right of command was able to save their own strength to a certain extent. No one wanted to be cannon fodder. The 7-star pagoda owner wants to be the alliance leader, but I refused. The 10 countries from the south wanted more benefits, which I naturally did not agree to. The final condition set forth by the 7-star pagoda owner was to set up an elder league during the war, and in the form of a legislative assembly, fight for the commanding rights. And exactly how many seats every faction would receive would depend on each country's strength. Strength? Jian Gu frowned. In the world of warriors, strength was king. The bigger one's fist was, the greater one's voice was. This was not to be disputed, but how was one to compete in strength? Our strength is on par with the Yunlong Divine Kingdoms. San Yan said. Yes, in terms of national power, we are almost the same. Besides, there is no way to compare national power. We cannot gather the sages and peak human lords from every country to fight a match. Therefore, we will compete with the strength of our juniors. Their Yunlong 72 pagodas is not much different from our Tai A Divine City. It too gathers all the best juniors of the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. If the Yunlong 72 pagodas is compared with the Tai A Divine City, we can indeed see whose juniors are stronger. A generation of juniors is the future of a divine kingdom. This form of competition isn't unreasonable. The Yunlong 72 pagodas against the Tai A Divine City? City Lord, you agreed to it? Yes. The middle-aged scholar nodded. This, San Yan was worried. The geniuses of the Tai A Divine City are different every year. The last batch that just left the Tai A Divine City was filled with experts. Anyone chosen from Qin Haodian, Li Xiao and the Qiao brothers could fight 1 against 10, but now with them gone, the new crop has yet to come in to replace the old. Who do we choose? This rule was clearly disadvantageous against the Tai A Divine Kingdom. San Yan knew that the Yunlong Divine Kingdom had came prepared. It was likely that this batch in the Yunlong 72 pagodas was much stronger than previous years. For them to go against the Yunlong 72 pagoda's strong phase while their Tai A Divine City was in the weak phase, the outcome was obvious. The middle-aged scholar said, "You are right." The 7-star pagoda owner knew this and purposely made this request. He is clearly very confident of this Yunlong Divine Kingdom generation. As for the 10 countries in the south, they have agreed. They have added on a condition for them to have 3 additional elder seats. They seem to be very proud of their country's younger generation. The middle-aged scholars said as the elders' minds were shrouded in gloom. They knew that it was a necessary concession for the middle-aged scholar had to agree on. As the shepherd boy had appeared at the Tai A Divine Kingdom's borders, the 10 countries in the south and the Yunlong Divine Kingdom were still a distance away. If a beast horde were to happen, the first one to suffer was the Tai A Divine Kingdom. They could watch on the sidelines as the Tai A Divine Kingdom fought against the beast horde first. Although as the saying goes, when the lips are lost, the teeth will be exposed to the cold, the 10 countries in the south and the Yunlong Divine Kingdom would only feel cold, while the Tai A Divine Kingdom would be lost. The difference was great. What are the exact rules? we can't be fighting without anything to reap? An elder dressed in a purple shirt said worriedly. No, if the younger participants do a good job, we will also win seats, just fewer in numbers. And for making it fair, if the difference in ages is too great, then the older one will have to suppress their cultivation level. Even so, the older one would still hold an advantage, as suppressing one's cultivation level is extremely limited. It is just for show, as the insight into laws and aspect totems will not be suppressed. The number of seats in the end will be decided according to the overall performance. In the end, just being first will obtain a once-off 10 seats. The middle-aged scholar simply introduced the rules. Song Yin was extremely pissed hearing this, as these rules were beneficial to the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. The current Tai A Divine City's Achilles heel was that it lacked strong young adult cultivators. They were not lacking in teenager experts. But under these rules, it was impossible for a 13-14-year-old teenager to beat a 17-18-year-old young adult. Hence, the final grand prize would have to be given up. Jian Gu, you have been the one in charge of the Tai A Divine City these days. Make a list of participants. The middle-aged scholar ordered. You should know who is most suitable to compete. The participant list not only needed to take into consideration the Earth Roll ranking, but also the age. Even the 6th-year cultivators, who were ranked in the top 30 of the Earth Roll, could not compete as they were too weak. But as for Wen Yu and Lu Jie, these rookie experts who were only ranked 3000 to 4000 on the Earth Roll could take part in the competition. Jian Gu said, Yi Yun, Chu Xiaoran and Xionyou are all the best experts. With them, the 14-year-old bracket is definitely to our advantage. But there is a lack of 5th and 6th-year cultivators. There is only a girl named Luo Huier. Her origins are a mystery, and she has never participated in the Earth or Heaven Roll tussle, so we do not know how strong she is. The strength of Luo Huier, who was ranked first on the man ranking, had always been a mystery. Now, Jian Gu could only rest his hopes on Luo Huier to give a pleasant surprise. Chapter 308, Yi Yun coming out of reclusive training. The news regarding the alliance of the various large factions against the Beast Horde and the competition for assembly seats quickly spread. The young disciples of the various large factions were also made aware of this information. They finally knew why the Tai A Divine City's city lord had organized a birthday banquet and why it was suddenly stopped midway. The birthday banquet was only an excuse. The real reason was to negotiate an alliance. Initially, this reason was kept confidential, which was why the lie of a birthday banquet was needed. The matter of competing for seats was of grave importance. Every faction began making their preparations. The few of you are the best young people from our Baiyu Mountain family clan. I do not expect you to become the champion of this alliance ranking competition, nor do I even ask you to enter the top 10. As long as any one of you can win our Baiyu Mountain family clan one seat, then the next patriarch candidate will be mostly determined. Somewhere in the central divine tower, a middle-aged man said to a few young boys and girls in front of him. The Baiyu Mountain family clan was a reclusive family clan that had its roots in the Baiyu Mountains. It did not belong to any of the 3 large factions, nor did it have any sages. The head of the house was a peak human lord. If they were to develop according to a prescribed order, it would be very difficult for them to grow. However, opportunities arise in troubled times. First, they had to compete for a seat. This was the first step in allowing their family clan to grow. With this critical one vote, the Baiyu Mountain family clan would be valued by the other factions. During a key moment, people would try to win them over by laying enough chips on the table. While in another residence in the central divine tower, the fur-cloaked 7-star pagoda owner was looking at the young elites of the Yunlong Divine Kingdom in front of him. You are the Yunlong 72 Pagoda's strongest batch in the past 100 years. I suggested the rule of competing in an alliance ranking competition. I dared to suggest it because I have confidence in all of you. The 7-star pagoda owner towered from above as he looked at the young boys and girls before him. The shadow behind him seemed to rise infinitely high, giving others great pressure. Since the rules were suggested by me, if any one of you were to perform badly, then I will be the laughingstock of the South's 10 countries and the Tai Divine Kingdom. Even the old rivals in our country will mock me. Now, I have nothing much to say to you. I only wish for you to gain at least half the seats in the Alliance ranking competition in 7 days. That is the bottom line. In fact, only by obtaining 60% of the seats would I be satisfied. The 7-star pagoda owner's voice was shocking. The youths of the Yunlong Divine Kingdom half-kneeled with a hand across their chest. Yes. Pagoda owner. Amongst the crowd, a pale black-clothed youth wrapped a bandage around his hand. The Alliance ranking competition, I will not be limited by it. Let this beast horde be the first test in my martial life. The black-clothed youth said this silently in his mind. A cold beam flashed in his eyes. The 7 days of preparation was sufficient. There were even some countries who brought the young elites from their country using super long-distance teleportation arrays so as to join the competition. As for the Tai Divine City, it also gave out its own rewards. This large competition was no longer a matter of glory points. The Tai Divine City's city lord announced personally that whoever were to obtain first place in the Alliance ranking competition would be free to use any resources while training in the Tai Divine City. They would also be conferred the title of Count, given 100 cities as their fiefdom, and enjoy the privileges of the royal household in the future. For example, even reading the entire set of the Taiya sacred technique was not a problem. This reward was pretty exaggerated, but the appearance of the shepherd boy was a matter of the Tai Divine Kingdom's survival. Giving out rewards like this was understandable. Of course, to obtain first place in the Alliance ranking competition was too difficult for the Tai Divine City's cultivators. Even the leader figures of the current Tai Divine City, Yao Dao and Yang Qian, were experiencing heavy pressure at this time. The two of them were old rivals the moment they entered the Tai Divine City. At this moment, they were sitting across each other in a loft. You and I have been at odds for 4 years. Now, we will need to fight hand in hand. Yang Qian took a deep breath. He was of royalty, so for this matter that involved the countries and his own fate, he had to put in greater effort. If he could obtain first place in the Alliance ranking competition, he could be made a king for sure, even though it was impossible for him to be made crown prince. I am looking forward to fighting the young elites of the other countries on the same stage. Yao Dao said as he gently wiped his long saber, as his eyes burned with fighting spirit. At the moment everyone received this piece of information, Luo Huer received an invitation to fight. Luo Huer's small face frowned as she faced the invitation. Alliance ranking competition, Luo Huer muttered to herself as if she was in a dilemma. Miss, why don't you represent the Tai Divine City to fight and beat them all up badly? Beside Luo Huer was a very excited maidservant, Donger, who exclaimed this while waving her small fists, making movements as if she was fighting against an opponent. Donger had often heard Luo Huer bragging about how strong she was, such as tearing a king-grade desolate beast with her bare hands, destroying experts from all sorts of places, and so on. When she mentioned of her glorious past, Luo Huer would often add one more line at the end, "This is nothing to me, piece of cake." To Donger, with her mistress tearing a king-grade desolate beast with her bare hands powers, she was sure to wipe the floor of all the geniuses from various countries. As her mistress liked to join in the hubbub and with her show-off nature, it was natural that she would not miss out on this opportunity. But Donger never expected what happened next. After Luo Huer seemed to appear to have some intentions, but upon recalling something, she said, "I can't be bothered fighting this bunch of trash. It will only reduce my stature." Donger choked. Many times, just before Luo Huer fought, she would use various kinds of excuses. Reducing my stature fighting them was Luo Huer's most common excuse. Forget it. I won't bother with the likes of them. Training the desolate heaven technique every day is also boring, but so be it. Luo Huer stretched her back, revealing her great body. "I'm going to sleep. Don't bother me if there's nothing." "Miss, why?" Donger quickly followed as her eyeballs rolled around, as if she had seen something on Luo Hoyer's face. The Taya Divine City's Heaven and Earth rolls did not have Luo Hoyer's name on them. She only held first place of the man roll of honors. It was really weird that her mistress would not show herself off, considering her ability to tear a king-grade desolate beast apart with her bare hands. Donger was anxious, but Luo Hoyer appeared to have absolute zero interest. She yawned and ignored Donger as she went back to her room. Sitting on her bed, Luo Hoyer sat there quietly and lazily. After that, she unbuttoned her clothes gently and took out a talisman charm that hung on her neck. It was a protective charm. She touched the protective charm as she went into a daze. "Daddy, when will you bring me back? It's too boring here." In this sensitive period, if those whatever city lords or pagoda owners discover my identity, they would treat me as a spy and chop me up. AI, what a bother. It's so troubling that I have been suffering from insomnia recently. Luo Hoyer grabbed her protective charm, pressing it to her chest as she laid back on the soft bed. Her hair spread out covered the whole bed like a blooming black rose. Not long after, Luo Hoyer's calm breathing was heard in the room. The days passed one by one. During the 7 days preparation time, the South's 10 countries transferred people from their country over for the Alliance ranking competition. There were more and more elites gathered in the Taya Divine City. These proud children of heaven were all extremely arrogant. With the rivalry between the factions they belonged to, how could they live in peace together? Not long after, all sorts of friction exploded all around the Taya Divine City. Usually a small matter would escalate, causing the parties involved to make an appointment to fight it out in the arena. There was always a winning and losing party in a fighting match. If one accidentally attacked too heavily, causing the other to be injured, the hostility would worsen. Later, there would be people standing up for the injured party, resulting in another battle in the arena. As such, before the Alliance ranking competition even began, there were many fights. Many people were injured, and the situation became even more testy. Soon, the moment the elites from the various large factions met, it would be as if they were as incompatible as fire and water. It was just short of an all-out fight amongst the masses. The Taya Divine City's people had the most casualties. The main reason was that the people from the other factions were elites amongst the elites, while the Taya Divine City had many ordinary disciples. The result was obvious for an ordinary disciple clashing with an elite. The situation was nearly going out of control. "This kid, why isn't he coming out yet? He sure makes one worry." Tomorrow would be the Alliance battle. Sun Yen had been standing outside the Sword Tomb, tempted to open the door to the Sword Tomb a few times. However, he was afraid of interrupting Yi Yun's cultivation midway, just as he was about to gain some important insight, by entering. "In another 4 hours, I'll go in if the kid still doesn't come out. F***K, this kid has gone in there for so many days. It's nearly burning down outside, while he has it good. I don't even know if he has fallen asleep inside there. What the heck is he doing going in there for 8 to 9 days? If Yi Yun were to enter the Saber Tomb or if he were to go into reclusive training to ponder over things such as the Taya Sacred Technique or Totem Mystic Technique, it would be fine. But what most exasperating was that he had entered the Sword Tomb to learn about swords. Isn't he crazy for a saber user to learn swords? If not for Yi Yun giving Sun Yen miracles a time or two, Sun Yen would have long washed his hands of the matter. Sun Yen placed an hourglass by the Sword Tomb's entrance. Once the sand finished flowing, he would call Yi Yun out. As tomorrow was the big battle, he needed Yi Yun to have a good night's rest, so that he would be in an optimal state. Just as the sand flowed down about halfway, the Sword Tomb began rumbling as it opened by itself. This kid can actually open the tomb's door himself. Sun Yen was thinking about this just as he saw Yi Yun appear by the stone door's entrance. Chapter 309, Venomous Snake. The white gown that Yi Yun had changed into before entering the Sword Tomb was now tattered. The gown was not dirty, but it seemed to have been cut by a sword's blade. Cut after cut made it look like rags. Ian's long hair was hanging loose, while his face seemed to exude a faint smile. His eyes were bright, they shone in the dark sword tomb, as if they were stars in the sky, which gave a strange feeling. It seemed the Yun, who entered the sword tomb 9 days ago, was now different once again. This difference was not easily described. It seemed like there was a change in his disposition, as if a sword chi had merged right into his bones, making it as if Yun himself was a sword. "Kid, you finally came out," Song Yan said disgruntledly. I was too immersed and lost track of time. How long have I been in there?" "It has nearly been 9 days. Kid, you really are planning on learning the sword?" Song Yan looked inquisitively at Yun, and he was wondering how much sword comprehension Yun had gained in the past few days. But to Song Yan, even if Yun had gained some insight into a few sword moves, it was useless. A saber could do the same amount of damage as a sword could do, so there was no point learning both the sword and saber. It was a really pointless endeavor. Yun did not want to continue on this topic, and he interrupted. "Senior Song Yan, you previously said that you will let me challenge the earth roll, and as long as I get to the top 300, I can carry on cultivating the way of the sword and the 10,000 beast totem?" Yun indeed had plans to challenge the earth roll. The people at the top of the earth roll would receive dragon scale runes rewards monthly. Song Yan rolled his eyes at Yun and sighed. "You sure have lots to challenge now. Alas, you still may not know that our Taiya Divine Kingdom is on the brink of destruction." Song Yan carried on by describing the situation of the shepherd boy to Yun. Yun was stunned when he heard this. "Shepherd boy?" Song Yan's description of the shepherd boy's appearance made Yun recall the mysterious youth he met at the Blackwater Swamp back when he went out into the Divine Wilderness for training. The youth was riding a cow and he was blowing a piccolo. The piccolo sound seemed to contain a magical power that would affect one's state of mind. This mysterious youth traversed the Divine Wilderness and the Blackwater Swamp, but yet all the desolate beasts seemed to turn a blind eye. It was a leisure stroll to him in the Divine Wilderness, as if he was entering and exiting a flower garden. This youth, who looked amiable and even seemed to be likable, had actually stirred up a bloody storm in the western regions, killing countless people, and nearly destroyed the extremely powerful Shintu family clan? Yun was extremely shocked. Hearing Song Yan's description, the Shintu family clan was stronger than the Taiya Divine Kingdom. A family clan was stronger than the Taiya Divine Kingdom. What sort of family clan was this? And where was this so-called Western regions? Yun sighed silently. Having come to this world, it seemed like he had some form of results, but compared to all those massive behemoths, he was still small. Of course, this was not something he should think about now. He had to think about the big battle tomorrow. Yun was indebted to the Taiya Divine Kingdom. All his cultivation resources and cultivation techniques were mostly provided by the Taiya Divine Kingdom. Yun was a grateful person, so with the Taiya Divine Kingdom facing a major crisis, he naturally would help as much as he could. "Senior Song Yan, does the Taiya Divine City have an armory? I want to choose a sword and a saber to handle tomorrow's big battle." Yun's 1,000 army saber could no longer be used, and the broken sword he obtained from the Pyryang Sword Palace was of great importance, so he could not use it unless his life was in danger. It was best to choose a sword and a saber in the Taiya Divine City. The Taiya Divine City's armory's swords and sabers would definitely be better in quality than the Jin Longwei armories. Song Yan looked at Yun's harmless-looking smile and his heart thumped. He snapped, "Rotten kid, you are trying to take advantage of old me once again. You can choose some weapons, but it will only be alone. If you were to win tomorrow's big battle, the weapons will be yours. If you don't win, it will be charged accordingly. Don't try grabbing my stuff just because of the big battle ahead." Yun grinned, "Okay." That night, elites from all over were gathered in the Taiya Divine City. They were saving their strength and adjusting their conditions, in preparation for the battle tomorrow. However, while everyone was trying to condition themselves, in a corner of the divine city, there were a few people who took advantage of the dark and gathered in a small courtyard. It's this person? Despite the night being dark, some warriors could still easily see in the dark. At this moment, two men covered in cloaks were holding onto a portrait. On the portrait, there was a youth in linen clothes wielding a saber. This youth was none other than Yi Yun. It's him. The cloaked man's voice was hoarse, preventing others from recognizing his original voice. Break his meridians. It would be best if you made him permanently disabled. If you can do that, we will give you great rewards. As the cloaked man said, he flipped his hands and a black bag appeared in his hands. This is the down payment. Ah! A youth with a venomous serpent around his body took over a little black bag. This youth was lanky and his ears were full of skull earrings. His face and body were covered in tattoos, which made him look extremely odd. The youth's pupils were also amber in color and oval like a snake. Whenever he smiled, sharp teeth would appear in the corners of his mouth, giving a chilly feeling. Beside the youth with the snake, there was a yellow-clad fat person. He noted with interest as he stroked his chin and reached into the black bag. Shiny objects rolled out. They were like gemstones that glowed in the night. They were all desolate bone relics. Top-grade desolate bone relics. The yellow-clad fatty licked his lips. Interesting. I am very curious about your identities. You guys cannot be people from our Yunlong divine kingdom. Could it be that you are from the same faction as this Yi Yun? TSK, he sure is unpopular, to the point that even people from his own faction would buy a rival faction's people to maim him. Don't worry about us. The two cloaked men's voice turned cold, going on high alert. If this deal they struck was found out by the Taiya Divine City's upper echelons, there was a high possibility of them being crippled of their cultivation levels or even the death sentence. I warn you, this Yi Yun is not easy to deal with. Take care not to fail miserably at an easy task. One of the cloaked men said. Hee, don't think that we from the Yunlong Divine Kingdom are at the same level as your Taiya Divine Kingdom trash. He is just a kid that did not even enter the top 1,000 amongst you people a year ago. The snake youth laughed sinisterly and kept the desolate bone relics. You? When one of the cloaked men heard the snake youth's arrogant mocking, he clenched his fists, almost to the point of getting to blows. However, he was stopped by the other. Then, we will rely on the two of you. That cloaked man said. Ha! This anger means that you are indeed people from the Taiya Divine City. Don't worry, I, Viper, am best at making vicious blows. I'll take on this business. In this competitive battle, death or disability was not uncommon. After all, in a duel with real sabers and swords, many of the moves were made with full strength. Even in the internal battles of the Taiya Divine City, even when people tried their best to avoid a death battle, there would still be deaths in the arena. In this battle against rival factions, the battles would be even more intense and more brutal. It's a deal. The two cloaked men left silently. The yellow-clad fatty was chewing on a bamboo stick as he picked his teeth. These Taiya Divine City's cultivators sure are terrible. With a foreign enemy in front of them, they are still having their internal fights. Jealousy and hate is a terrifying force. It can cause a person to go mad, doing things without considering the consequences. But this is for the best. Of course, up to you. The yellow-clad fatty did not mind. But who are these two people? They sure are cunning. They even disguised their voices. The snake man said. One of them is one-armed. He thought that he had disguised himself well, but that fake limb did not have any yuan qi fluctuations, so how could that trick me? The Taiya Divine City may have many cultivators, but there are only a few of them with one arm. It would be definitely easy to find him. As the fatty said, his lips curled into a sinister smile. The next morning, the sky lit up and early winter snow fluttered above the Taiya Divine City. People from all over began to gather in the arena to participate in the City Lord's birthday banquet and also the Alliance competition. The arena had been cleared up and tables for 10 were placed all over the arena. At the seats of honor, there were small tables prepared for the various large factions' legendary figures. Fine wine and delicacies were placed on the tables. The scale of the birthday banquet was more than 10 times better than the one 7 days ago. However, the arena had an additional deathly aura to it that lacked the elegance of the splendid room. Even the cutlery were made of black iron. They gave off a chilling feeling as if this was not a birthday banquet. A special array was set up in the Divine Wilderness stage in the middle. No matter how violent the battles were on the Divine Wilderness stage, it would not affect the surrounding birthday banquet one bit. But at this moment, many of the young elites present were not at ease enough to eat. Of course, there were exceptions. On the Yunlong Divine Kingdom side, there was a yellow-clad fatty who was grabbing roasted meat and tucking in, disregarding the fact that the birthday banquet had not officially begun. Since all ties were nearly broken, there was no point to carry about any etiquette. Besides, how was he going to go on stage to fight if he did not have his fill? Beside the yellow-clad fatty, there was a lanky tattooed youth. A venomous snake was wrapped around his body. His eyes were like that of a serpent while he was in search of his prey. Only when he noticed a youth in linen clothes walk into the arena did he faintly smile, with pick-like sharp teeth appearing at the ends of his mouth. "TSK, the prey is here. He sure is fresh and delicious." As he said this, the fatty beside him raised his head and looked at Yi-Yun. Indeed. Poor child, he still doesn't know that his own company has stabbed him in the back, ha! The fatty laughed without control as his mouth was covered in oil. While walking in the crowd, Yi-Yun's eyebrows wrinkled. He felt that people were staring at him. He did not need to turn his head. Just by opening his energy vision, he could lock onto the yellow-clad fatty and the snake youth in an instant. Oh! I don't know these two people. What are they staring at me for? Yi-Yun subconsciously touched his interspatial ring, and in it were the weapons Yi-Yun chose yesterday. Author's note: this is the third update. I tried adjusting for the time difference the day before, but I failed. Chapter 310, Leader. What is the matter, Yi-Yun? Seeing Yi-Yun stop for a while, Chu Xiaoran asked. No matter, it's just that some people are focusing on me. Yi-Yun said without much thought to it. Focusing on you is understandable. The people from the Yunlong Divine Kingdom probably know about your performance at last year's rookie ranking competition. The main opponent of the Tai A Divine City was the Yunlong Kingdom's 72 pagodas. As for the southern 10 countries, they were mainly facing off against the other smaller factions. Yi-Yun and Chu Xiaoran walked to their seats and sat down. All the relevant Tai A Divine City's cultivators were gathered together, filling 4 large tables. An elder Song Yan was sitting amongst them. Yi-Yun glanced at the people around the tables and he noticed Wen Yu, Xianyo, Yang Qian, and Yao Dao. There were also Yi-Yun's rivals, Li Hong, Yang Dingquan, and Yang Haoran. Yang Haoran may have lost an arm, but his strength was still ranked near the top of the Tai A Divine City's cultivators, so he was naturally selected. But Yi-Yun did not see Luo Huar. Oh? Luo Huar did not come? From Yi-Yun's point of view, with Luo Huar's absolute talent in the Desolate Heaven technique, her strength should not be too bad. Luo Huar said that she lacks talent in fighting, so she would not embarrass herself for the Tai A Divine City. Someone in the know said by the side. Yi-Yun was shocked when he heard this. Were these words that a girl like Luo Huar would say? Yi-Yun did not have time to think too carefully about it before Song-Yin started speaking at that moment. Everyone listen up. I will be mentioning the rules of the big battle ahead. All the people fighting in our battle with the Yunlong Divine Kingdom will be split into 8 groups. There will be 4 groups for those below the age of 15, and another 4 groups for those above the age of 15. A leader will be chosen for each group, while the remaining group members are forerunners. Each group's leader will hold on to 2 seats. Once the leader is defeated, the seats will be taken. Therefore, the leader's position is of utmost importance. As for the forerunners, their main role is to protect the leader. They are to take on challenges for the leader or use to probe the opponent's strength. Everyone can only fail once. Once defeated, they will not be able to fight again. Besides defeating the opponent's leader and obtaining the seats, if you obtain first place in the under 15 groups, above 15 groups, and the overall group by defeating all opponents, then we will obtain additional seats. Song Yin finishing explaining the rules in a few words. Everyone could tell that only the leader could easily make meritorious contributions. The others, although called forerunners euphemistically, they were, in actual fact, cannon fodder or stones used to scout ahead. First, I will announce the people who are leaders. Song Yin took out a scroll while the young elites present held their breaths. The matches ahead meant a lot to them. It was far greater importance than challenging the heaven or earth rolls of honor. For the under 15 groups, the leaders are Chu Xiaoran, Qianyo, Yi Yun, and Li Hong. Song Yin paused briefly after mentioning each name. When Yi Yun's name was mentioned, Yang Haoran clenched his fist. That kid was made a leader. Although he hated Yi Yun, he knew that Yi Yun becoming a leader was a reasonable decision. Amongst the 4 leaders, Li Hong was the weakest. But they really had no one else to choose from. They could not get Wen Yu or Lu Jie to be leaders. Li Hong was, after all, the best person amongst the Tai A Divine City's third-year cultivators. Next will the above 15 groups leaders, Yao Dao, Hua Yu, Fong Hai, and Yang Haoran. When Song Yin announced the 4 leaders' names, everyone was shocked. What was going on? Yang Qian's strength was just slightly inferior to Yao Dao and he was outstanding in the Earth Roll of Honor. It was surprising that he was not made a leader. What was the reason behind Hua Yu, Fong Hai, and Yang Haoran? I'm a leader, I'm also a leader. Yang Haoran was ecstatic. He felt that if he had not lost his arm, it would have been no problem becoming a leader. But after he lost an arm, it was impossible to become a leader. Now, Song Yin had chosen Yang Haoran to be a leader, allowing him, who felt gloom in his life, to finally gain some spirit. As everyone was still trying to understand the reasoning behind the leader selection, Song Yin took out another bunch of scrolls. The leaders have been decided. Now, I will announce each group's forerunners. After Yang Haoran took his subordinate name list, he was dumbfounded. There was no other reason. The people on his list were weaker than any of the other groups. They were practically people with average talent and they only managed to enter the top 30 to 40 of the Earth Roll of Honor with difficulty due to their age advantage. These people were, in other words, cannon fodder. He, as a leader, was leading a group of cannon fodder? Then wasn't he also cannon fodder? After Yang Haoran looked at the other name lists, he realized that the strongest people amongst the Tai A Divine City's above 15 cultivators such as Yang Qian were all in Yao Dao's group. The other groups were all given cannon fodder. And even though they were considered cannon fodder, the cannon fodder given to him were the worst. He suddenly realized that he had been given up. The upper echelons of the Tai A Divine City had placed all their bets on Yao Dao's group. Yang Qian and company may not have obtained the position of leaders, but they were able to guarantee Yao Dao's group a victory. As for the rest, due to the rules, they were only here to make up the numbers. Actually treating me like cannon fodder. Yang Haoran clenched his fist, as the veins on his forehead went taut. The hate for Yi Yun became stronger after receiving this name list. If it wasn't for his missing arm, how could he have ended up as cannon fodder? He swallowed his anger because with Song Yin here, he didn't dare show it. He was only hoping that the 2 people he found the other day would be able to cripple Yi Yun or even kill him. While at this moment, Yi Yun had also obtained the name list of his group. The 4 forerunners were all first-year cultivators. Besides Wen Yu being not that bad, the rest were only there to make up the numbers. San Yan had purposely placed the stronger people under the age of 15 with Junyo and Chu Xiaoran, strengthening their group's strength. As for Li Hong, his group's strength was also not that great, it was on par with Yi Yun's. Clearly, it was another of those groups that had been given up. As for why the slight stronger ones were placed in Li Hong's group, it was probably due to the Taiya Divine City's upper echelon sphere of the Yunlong Divine Kingdom using similar tactics. If they were all cannon fodder, then if their own cannon fodder was too weak, losing to the opponent's average weak cannon fodder would be a huge waste. In general, the upper echelons of the Taiya Divine City were confident in the under 15 groups, so they hoped that they would win more seats this way. As for the above 15 groups, they only wished for one group to win. As for the other groups, they were completely given up on them without a second thought. Li Hong felt gloomy seeing the names he had. He looked at Yi Yun's name list and his subordinates were not that great either. But Li Hong did not gain any satisfaction from that. He had guessed the intentions of the Taiya Divine City's upper echelons. They probably trusted Yi Yun, so they sent weaker forerunners to Yi Yun, hoping that Yi Yun could turn the tide just by himself. Li Hong gritted his teeth. Those old fools sure look down on people. To treat us as cannon fodder and let Yi Yun be the hero. Ha! It's not so easy to be a hero. Li Hong looked at the Yunlong Divine Kingdom's side. There, the snake youth was discussing something with people and looked to be talking jovially. Seeing the calm snake youth, Li Hong insidiously laughed twice. The Taiya Divine City's arrangements suit my wishes. Now my plan will be even easier to be carried out. Yi Yun, just you wait. After the groups were formed, the birthday banquet began. The Taiya Divine City's city lord was dressed in a blue shirt and he was seated beside the 7-star pagoda owner in the seats of honor. He looked with a smile at the youths from the various factions. The 7-star pagoda owner was already informed of the Taiya Divine City's grouping methods and laughed, saying, "City Lord Yang sure has a strong nerve. You can still smile so naturally even at this moment." "Same to you." The Taiya Divine City's city lord responded. "It seems City Lord Yang has gathered all the experts in one group. This method sure is clever." The 7-star pagoda owner's words sounded like praise, but it was clearly mocking the city lord. This tactic was not considered honorable. The city lord faintly smiled as if he never heard the 7-star pagoda owner's mockery, and simply went with the flow by saying, "Thank you for your compliments. Everything is for victory, so there has to be some strategy in the assignment of troops. Unfortunately, against absolute power, any strategy is useless." The 7-star pagoda owner's smile turned cold. "You will see my Yunlong 72 pagoda's disciples sweeping the arena." "Oh? Then I look forward to that." The atmosphere in the arena was all set for a showdown. The birthday banquet only had some symbolic dishes. Not many people actually used their chopsticks as all their thoughts were on the alliance competition. Yi Yun took his group's 4 people to sit on the participants' benches. The Yunlong Divine Kingdom's people were sitting next to them. At this moment, a youth whose body was filled with tattoos and had a snake wrapped around him walked towards Yi Yun. "Yi Yun, right. You are the leader, and so am I. This will be fun. I will be taking the 2 seats you have." Both sides could freely challenge each other in the match. The decision to accept the match was decided by the leaders from both sides. If there was no agreement, then the opponents would be decided by drawing lots. Yi Yun had already expected that the snake youth would challenge him, as for who to fight, he did not care. Since someone had challenged him, he accepted it. "Oh? Then let's see if you have the ability to take it over." When Yi Yun said this, Wen Yu, who was behind him, jumped up. Her expression looked bitter. "You sure accepted the challenge too easily. That, Senior Yi, do you know who that is?" As they were to fight in an alliance battle, people like Wen Yu had long did their preparatory work. They had sought information on their opponents. This tattooed youth was nicknamed Viper. He was ruthless and very strong. He had just reached the age of 15 and his cultivation level had broken through to the Yuan Foundation realm. He was one of the toughest guys under the age of 15 from the Yunlong Divine Kingdom. When Yu did not want to fight a sinister-like person like him, as she felt that in front of him, she was like a mouse in front of a venomous snake. But her leader had agreed immediately to Viper's challenge. This made Wen Yu sad enough that she couldn't shed tears.